Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. Today, we've got a live caller coming on, and it's going to be a gem of a show, as I like to say. And if you would like to be a live caller on a future live stream, please contact me at coachmacmccarthy@gmail. And we'll unpack your situation on a call just like this. Also, if you'd like to go to writemac.com, WRITEMAC.com, that's right, not your right hand, and send in your story. You could get my take in a YouTube video like this or live stream, or you could book a live coaching session, talk to me one-on-one in Skype or FaceTime. If you want to visit my IG, which means Instagram, Coach Mac McCarthy, and I also have a Discord, Coach Mac McCarthy. Notice I didn't say subscribe and like my channel because I'm sick of that too. So, all good. The individual that I'm going to bring on the show today on the live stream is a client that I've worked with in the past. She is a good human being doing good work, and I really respect her. So I was glad and happy that when I reached out to her and said, hey, do you want to get on a live stream and talk about a couple topics? This is an individual we could talk about a lot of stuff. I just actually called her prior to being on here and or starting this, and basically said, hey, we started talking about some things. We got 10-15 minutes. I'm like, okay, we got to save it for the live stream in my head. So we could talk all day. Wendy Dawn, what's up? It's been a while. How are you? So we're going to get into divorce today. I want a divorce. What are the pros and cons? We're going to get into some other stuff. It's going to be a really interesting conversation. I'm really looking forward to it. Like I said, anyone else out there, if you want to get on a live stream and unpack some topics with me, do a post interview. I'm having a lot of fun with this new format, and I would invite you as a caller to join the fun. So today, like I said, divorce. And the reason I wanted to unpack this is that I'm excellent. The reason I wanted to unpack this is that this individual has been through a divorce. She's got a couple kids. She's in her 40s, and she's got some life experience and some wisdom. And she can laugh at things too, which I really enjoy. She's got a great sense of humor, and has had quite a bit of life experience. I like her perspective. And she's come out of her divorce, which I believe in a better place. She's not bitter at this point in her life. It was a choice I believe she made, but we're going to unpack that more. And one of the reasons I want to talk about this is I've had a lot of clients that are women that are late 20s, early 30s, and their biological clock's ticking, and they want to get married and they want to have kids, and they're very anxious about it. And they feel like once I get married, everything will be good. Everything will line up. Lender 2, female perspective, I'm out. Well, maybe that's why you need to listen. Because if you're one of those people like, oh, you know what? I know you said just kidding. But sometimes you got to listen. I'm not, I wouldn't have someone on that's one-sided. She's not a one-sided individual. But what I wanted to talk about is that sometimes people want a divorce, but they feel stuck. That's another thing I'd like to ask her about, how she was able to, this might sound bad, pull the trigger and get divorced. Because I've never been married, but I think there's some added pressure with being married and actually going, you know what, I like, because once you get married, you got so many people outside that marriage is this sacred thing till death do us part. And you feel like it's gonna be shameful. I feel guilty because you had all these expectations of getting married and being together forever and ever and ever and raising your kids. And so I think there's a lot of weight on that. The other part of this is, like I said earlier, what are you getting into? What are you getting into, right? G Money on deck, Aussie 411, Miami's finest, Lender Tube on deck, always has the sarcasm. That's welcome. Just make sure it's actually funny, Lender Tube. And I'm going to place the call right now. If you guys have any questions on the sidelines, G Money's actually on deck for a second round because if someone was on earlier this week, we started to get into a couple different topics. It was going really well, and then the power cut out at my house. Someone might think like, oh my God, you must live in the sticks in Thailand. No, I actually live in a really nice community. It just happens sometimes. So we're going to do a round 2 with G Money coming up soon. I'll have a schedule laid out pretty soon because we're going to be having more and more callers, and I think that this is going to be more and more and more fun. All right, so I'm fresh off of coffee. Never felt better. So let's make the call. Sometimes it's not fair when I talk to these people because it's at night or they just had a long day, and I'm just getting my first coffee. I had a full sleep. I'm energized. So let me place the call here.
Hello?
Hello. Just want to let you know you're live. So you're on deck. So is it all right? I'll just call you L. Is that okay? Or do you want to? Is there
you can use my name. That's fine.
Okay, Lala.
Yeah.
Okay, so like I had mentioned earlier, Lala had been a client of mine in the past to talk about a bit of a breakup that she had gone through recently. But we're gonna backtrack a little bit to her divorce because I think it's a topic that she's got a good perspective on, and she's at a point where I mentioned earlier where you're indifferent and more objective about it. So I think it's a good place to be. So right now, it is, right? The smoke is cleared, right? So if we can get into, at what age did you get married?
32.
Okay.
32.
So this is very relative to what I talked to you about pre-live stream, is that I'm having a lot of clients in their early 30s that really want to get married and have kids, which I'm not against. I want to unpack with you, like, it's not all rose petals and wine glasses. You know, it's not all finger paints and great times with the kids at birthday parties. There's some other parts, right?
A few other ones.
Right. So this is great perspective. So you're 32 years old. You get married. How long were you seeing your future husband?
I think we'd been, the time we got married, a little over a year and a half, but we got engaged 8 months after we met. 9 months.
Okay. And so was it just were you just ready? Was the timing just perfect? Or was it one of those things that you just never met someone like this before and you just knocked your socks off?
No, definitely. I can look back with being objective about it. And I remember what he wore the first time I saw him, and he was just a different kind of person that I really enjoyed spending time with. I really loved his family, and, it was part of a whole package that I wanted to be part of.
You know what? That's interesting you mentioned that, because I think it's underrated. If you're considering marriage, you're marrying the family too. Is that?
Absolutely. My ex-mother-in-law is one of my best friends still to this day.
That's great. That's a great. I think that's so important because that's part of marriage. Is you're melting into the family, right? And so I've noticed, though, on the flip side of this, people that I've talked to that already have a problem with the mother-in-law or already have a problem with some of their family dynamics, be careful what you're getting into, right? Because that's not going away. Someone's not going to disown their parents or their family members in wake of getting married. So that's interesting that you identified that early as something that you wanted to be a part of. And I think that's a good reason to consider marriage, that you like his family.
I mean, I always just thought I would be married. It wasn't like a question in my mind. I always thought I'd be married and have kids.
Okay.
So it wasn't really a big, like, oh my God, this is a radical change in my thinking because I met him. He was the right person at the right time for me.
And so prior to that, so in your 20s, you what kind of relationships did you have prior to that, if I may ask?
First serious relationship was horrible, domestic violence, which is weird because that wasn't like any way that I grew up. And
It's foreign
It's
to you.
given me a lot of sympathy for domestic violence victims, because they don't beat you up in the parking lot on the first date. I'll say it that way. And so that was a big relationship for me to get over and feel like a normal human being. That really was a mind fuck for quite a while.
May I ask how many years you were involved in that?
3.5, 4, maybe, something like that.
Can we just talk about that for a minute? We don't have to get too detailed.
Sure.
I just want to say, in talking to so many different people over the last few years and being a coach and talking to women and men, there's this big, there seems to be this big movement of a lot of YouTube channels or men with, women have these issues or high expectations. But I'll tell you what, guys, there's a lot of women that have had domestic violence that you would never know. I don't know I don't know what you'd look for in it, but the amount of women that I've met that are in their 30s or up and have had one relationship where a guy got physical with them is amazing. It's really surprising, because I'm one of those.
I think it's something like 1 in 4.
Is it
really high?
I wouldn't be surprised if that's what it is. I'm sure different cultures in different parts of the world are probably different. Take that however you want, but I think that's true. But I mean, the amount of women I've had that were like, yeah, when I was like, a lot of times a first relationship too, where what you just said is true. If you didn't grow up with it, it's like a different language, right? It's manipulation also, because you've never come across that before. And so, like you said, it's new to you, and you can get manipulated into staying into that. And what I will applaud you for is the idea that you've got some built-in compassion for other people with it right away, right? That are going through it.
Yeah, but you can say what my job is. I deal with it on both sides. So I think I have a pretty, I see it from both sides. But, for me, when it was me, it's the emotional part that is way worse than the physical part. I mean, that's what takes you years to get over.
What do you mean by that? Can you elaborate?
Because like I said, so, I mean, I grew up in we'll just say fairly normal family. We'll leave it at that.
Okay. Whatever normal is, right? Because a lot of people will be like, I just want a normal relationship. I'm like, what do you think a normal relationship is? I get that all the time. I would just like a normal relationship. I'm like, what? People in normal relationships get bored.
I grew up in the suburbs. My parents are still married to each other. For all that storybook stuff, we'll move on from that. But, they,
sure.
So I met this guy, it was right before I went to do my graduate degree to law school. And I met him the summer before I went to law school. And, it was just like, I don't know. I just he was different and cool and edgy. Well, he was really a jerk, but, and it's not like I said, it doesn't start out with them being an abusive asshole to you on the first date. It's like, you're worthless without me. You did a bad job. You didn't do as well. I remember, so I was taking my exams in my second semester, first year, and I studied my ass off, and I did really poorly, and I was upset for 2 or 3 weeks about it. And my boyfriend says, well, you didn't really try that hard. And I was just like, the person who loves you the most is the one ragging on you. And you believe them.
Yeah. And would you say that that's a form of manipulation, or or control, or both?
Oh, God, I don't. I think that it probably was a way of making himself feel better about himself. I mean, if I'm going to psychoanalyze it,
sure.
I don't know why he would have said that, other than to just be hurtful. And being hurtful is part of the thing to knock you down, so that you buy into the continued relationship with them. If I'm saying that the right way.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's your perspective. I mean, there's no right or wrong to that. You were in it, so it's your perspective. So you were in that 3.5 years, and how did you, dare I say, escape that relationship?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
How did you get out of it, and what was your last straw, if I may ask?
So we had moved from where I had gone to law school to Miami, and things were just not going well. I guess there wasn't
Sure.
anything really specific about why it wasn't going well.
Okay.
And my best friend at the time was pregnant, and I was going to go back to where we grew up to go to her baby shower.
Okay.
And we were sitting on the bed, and he was going to take me to the airport later that day. And I was just pissed off or whatever. No, I wasn't pissed off. I was just done. And I said to him, I'm done. We're done. And he rolled over and started choking me out and saying he was going to kill me. And I rolled off the bed and hit the floor, and he kind of popped off the top of me and backed me into a corner, and he was screaming and yelling, and I believed he was going to kill me. And so I just did whatever he wanted. Not that it was anything bad or creepy or sexual. I just did whatever he wanted for the next 24 hours until I could get on the airplane.
Well, that's survival, right? I would think that you go into mode where you're like, all right, how am I going to survive this? You're not going to win him in a power match. So that's where your subconscious kind of kicked in and go, do this to get out of this.
So I went to my friend's shower. I think it was like a weekend or something. And I came back, and I stayed with somebody who I worked with, told my ex, I'm leaving, you have to leave. Cause I think we were both on the lease. Yeah. And this is what you'll do to get your paw out of the trap. I gave him a car, co-signed on his rent, and gave him money to move out. And he did.
Wow. Okay. So that was your way out. So
that was my way out of having no guilt about it, because he supported me when I was in school. So there was this part of it that was like,
okay.
Okay.
That's that's such an interesting take, because you don't think about that part, but that was your way to not feel guilt afterwards. So I applaud you. You moved on. You didn't stick it out with that, and from that, did you move immediately from Miami and out of the apartment, or did you stick around? Or
I'm trying to remember. I think I was there for at least another 6 months, and then I got a job and moved to a different place.
Okay.
And started dating somebody that I lived with for a couple years.
How was that?
With him, it was good. He was a very different kind of person. He was very, in retrospect, I think he had I want to say a very Asperger, like very, very smart, no social skills.
I know the type. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just wasn't the thing for me. It wasn't a big story on it. And, I look back fondly on the relationship. It was a good relationship.
Good. That's nice, because sometimes it's just a moment, right? It's just a chapter in your book kind of a thing, I call it, where you were like, he was a great guy. We had some times, but you knew it wasn't long term. I know that personality type too. That's funny. I have a picture of that.
Yeah.
So then at this point, I'd say you're probably in your late 20s, right? After that.
I was already, because I would have moved down to, I would have probably been 29. Yeah, I was 29.
So you got married at 32. So then how long before you met your future husband?
Oh, gosh, I think it was a year between leaving that relationship and meeting him.
So you had a little time to be single and catch your breath.
Yeah, I dated people, nothing serious.
Good. So you meet who ended up being the man that ended up being your husband. You get married. You like the family. It was good timing, which I like the sound of that, because I think timing counts. Obviously, you've got your career going, right? Because you said you were in grad school at this point. You probably have something going with that. And you and him get married, and dun, 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 dun. How was the first couple of years?
It was good. It was, we kind of both of our careers were taking off. And we had moved, both of us, back to Miami. And that's not a place I want to live again. But I lived there for 7 years on and off.
Wow.
And he was from the West Coast, from a small town on the West Coast, and he wanted to move back. And I was done with South Florida. And I said, I think I had been here twice ever in my whole life. And I'm like, let's do it. Let's move. So we moved out to the West Coast. And things were really not perfect, but I was happy. We bought a house. I got pregnant with my first kid when I was 35. Yeah, I was 35. And things changed really a lot after the birth of my first kid. And that's kind of what if in retrospect, I would say was the beginning of things going downhill.
Okay, so this is where the story gets good. Thank you for sharing. I love your sense of humor too. That's why I was saying before you came on, you got a great sense. It's so important, right? To look back at things in our life and be able to laugh a little bit. You know, I had a client on yesterday that was, I think she's in her early 30s and she's having such trouble with her breakup, and she got to laugh a few times, and it's so important because we get so serious sometimes, right? So this is obviously, at the time you weren't laughing. You would have never thought you'd end up on a live stream on YouTube talking about this years later, right?
Yeah, right. I had a horrific postpartum depression too. Like, not that was the cause of things starting, but it was a rough transition, I'll say, for both of us. And, he has some long-term mental illness that goes on with him. And
you're talking about your husband at the time.
Ex-husband, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is interesting to me because I've heard of this before. I'm not really educated on it or have lived through it. This, after the first kid, emotions change. And I'm sorry, what's the term that you used? I'm familiar with it, but I don't want to say it.
I had postpartum depression. Was that what you were asking?
Yeah. So does this occur right after you have the baby, like immediately, or how does this transpire?
For me, it was within hours. Like, it was super crazy. But it varies. It can go up to like 4 or 5 months after the birth, and then you get it. And
this is interesting. I should have titled this because it's an interesting topic, and I've known of friends of friends or acquaintances that I went to school with that their marriages kind of fell apart, and they said it was because of this. So what are those feelings that you have that falls under this?
So I know you and I have talked about depression before, and your feelings about it are a little different than my experiences, but it can vary. Like, it can really vary what depression feels like. That felt like I was disconnected from everything.
Okay.
And very angry.
Okay.
Like, and I didn't want to be disconnected from my newborn child.
Did you feel like you didn't understand why?
I think in the beginning, like at first, because when you have a new baby, you're just wiped out. Like, you can't tilt your ass from a hole in the wall, right? You're just out of it.
Exhausted.
You're just like in pure
Is that
survival
the
mode.
word?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so then after about 3 months of this, my ex was like, something's wrong with you. And I was like, I think so too. And he took me to a psychiatrist because I was so messed up.
Okay. And so, what did the psychiatrist say?
You have postpartum depression. Take a pill. And I was like, okay.
Okay.
I'd had depression on and off in my life before, but never not like this. And I feel like it took 6 months for me to kind of, at the year mark, I kind of started feeling like a normal person again.
Would you say that you're more susceptible if you've battled depression of having something like this happen? If you have a history of depression?
Yeah, probably. But basically, my doctor said, this is your third major incident. You're going to need to be on medication for the rest of your life. And I was like, what? And at this point, now that was 10 years ago, I agree. I've been on something or else most of the past 10 years. But it makes me feel normal. Like, it doesn't make me feel anything other than normal. And my kids can tell when I don't take the medicine.
Okay.
So like,
well,
okay,
like what you said about our views of depression. I'm one of those people. I'm ignorant to some of it. So
yeah,
which means I'm aware of that, but I'm certainly curious and open to hearing other people's experiences. So I don't just close the book and go, oh, you're just no. I'm open. You know what I mean? Because I feel like some people. Everyone projects their own experience, right? And so my position is I can't project that. I've only had moments where I'm really sad, but I don't identify it as full-blown depression, where, like you had my bad breakup or something like that. So I I'm
This is what I
curious.
can tell you, Max. So you know about when we don't have to get into the story of why I came to you, but
Yes.
this has been a really hard year for me, and I
Yes.
felt intense grief and sadness, but
Yes.
I have not been depressed.
Ah, different, right?
Oh yeah,
Can
yeah.
can we
It's a
elaborate
different
on
feeling
what the
altogether.
can we elaborate on what the difference of that is to you?
So when you're depressed, for me anyway, it starts as a lot of anxiety, like everything is irritating or stressful to me, and it gets in and it builds to I can't do anything. Like I can't empty the dishwasher. I can't pay the bills and I have the money for it. It's just this overwhelming feeling of being
Hopeless?
stuck in sand. No,
Stuck.
it's not
Okay.
hopeless. It's just you can't do anything. You don't have the energy. You don't feel like doing anything. You just want to check out and go to sleep.
Okay. Okay.
So
Where sadness is, you got blame, guilt, you got all kinds of things. There's stories
yeah, I
running.
mean, yeah.
There's
Yeah.
actions being done, right? Like, because sometimes being like when people are in breakup, sometimes I'm like, anger is a part. Like anger, obviously, there's limits to how far you want to go with anger, right? You have more experience with that, and you're dealing with the people you deal with, but. Getting angry when something went wrong is part of the human spirit sometimes, like standing up for yourself or being upset. That's okay, I tell people. It's part of the process sometimes of healing. Like, don't fight being upset. But I suppose there's some boundaries to it. But yeah, I think that depression's like a whole nother ball of wax that's on a different level. So what I would say, though, is if you feel like the medication you gave you makes you feel, quote unquote, normal, and it works for you, and it's not making you jumpy or out of character, well then good. So let's talk about the leading up to. So you have your first child, and what's the term again? Because I don't want to say it wrong.
Postpartum depression.
Postpartum depression. So you said that's about 6 months. You saw a psychiatrist, which helped you, and your husband at the time. That was probably a good move on his end, because there's a lot of people in relationships that try things, but I always tell them, I'm like, you don't know about this stuff. You're not an expert. Go to someone that is, because you're gonna go nuts trying to figure out. You're gonna just say, oh, why don't you just be happy? Why don't you just do this? Right. And you don't know. So that was a good move on his end. So 6 months later, you start to feel better. You're being a mom, and so what's kind of next in the relationship?
So I was working full time, and I was driving, because I live in a rural area. So when I say I drive 50 miles one way to work, it's 45 minutes in the car.
Sure.
So I was driving, an hour each way to work. And because this was right around the time when the economy had really, like late 2000s, the economy had really hit the toilets, and he lost his job. So he was the stay-at-home dad for the first year. And I think that's what happened. Like, I think he lost a sense of himself and being proud of himself. And I think that changed him a lot that year, I think.
Well, I mean, go ahead.
And I don't think he ever really got over it.
Well, I mean, I've said this before, and I talk to people in breakups. A lot of significance in your life comes from your job. A lot of pride comes from it. And significance is so important as a human being, that you're important, that you're needed, that you do something well. And so losing your job can do that. I've known other men that took that role as, quote unquote, Mr. Mom, if that's not right. I'm thinking about the 80s movie with Michael Keaton. Remember that movie?
And Terry Garr.
Yeah.
Of course.
Man, I had it on VHS at the house. I used to like it as a little kid, actually. It's funny. So, but I've known other people that do it, and it works. But at the same time, the male has to deal with the idea of, like, really? You don't have a job? Like, you still got to answer those questions to the society around you, and it depends on how you feel comfortable with it. So, and if you, by the way, it depends on how much you really liked your job, right? If you really enjoyed and got a lot out of your job, then you're, and
he did. And that was part of his identity.
Right. And men or women, this is what I find interesting. You'd think, let's say a woman has kids and she goes, oh my God, I just want to be a stay-at-home mom. you know, that's her aspirations, and someone goes, oh, wow, that's your aspirations. Some people, that's a great aspiration for them because they have those qualities that, you know, they like doing arts and crafts and picking up the kids from school and they love that. And then some find out like, actually, I do want a babysitter, and I do like, you're right. It's like, it doesn't suit everyone, even though everyone thinks that would be ideal, right? It doesn't suit everyone. Because I've met, and you probably met him living in the suburbs, you said growing up, some stay-at-home moms that weren't really good stay-at-home moms.
Right? No, there's a reason she'd lock you out of the house. You'd be smoking a Benson and Hedges 120 and drinking Tab while you were out in the yard.
Right. Like it wasn't for her. She wasn't getting significance from it. She didn't like being a stay-at-home mom. So, so getting back to this, that was a turning point. That's interesting. That's outside of your control, but that certainly would line up with changing someone's character, personality, and behavior because they're unhappy with their role right now. So he's a stay-at-home dad. It came on by accident. He's doing that for a couple years?
I mean, to some degree, yeah. I mean, he did go back to work, but never to the same level that he had before.
Okay.
And then he went back to school to go get a degree in accounting or business, something like that. And so, you know, so I was really pretty supportive of that. And then the economy picked back up, and he quit school to go back to work. So,
which was okay.
Okay. I wasn't super, I don't think I was jazzed about it or anything. Like, I thought, you know, go to school, finish this, and you can be an accountant. This is a lifelong career that you can do really well on, right?
Right.
So, you know, but I'm not a person who's like going to force people to make decisions. That's not me, you know? And so then had my second child, got pregnant with my second kid. And so I was almost 40 when she was born. I was like a month away from being 40. And I was still working the same job. And I think that may have been when he quit school and went back to work. At any rate, he was, as I said, he was never working to the same level of what he had done before. And, you know, after a year, after my second child was born, I kind of came out of the survival mode. I guess, like, you know, same kind of Mark. After a year, you're like, oh, what's happened to my marriage? I'm not really happy about all the stuff that has suddenly become the norm in my marriage. And when I started saying, I don't like this, I don't like the way we're doing this, I want to have a change, he didn't like that because he'd been very comfortable with how things got. And we went to marriage counseling. And I remember, I know I talked to you about this. This is when I knew it was over. As we're sitting there talking, and I can't remember why I was particularly pissed at him about something day to day that was going on with us. And instead of trying to play nice at the therapy session and like do some productive work and not be blamey and bitchy, I was just done. And I just let it loose. I was like, you know, you're an asshole, blah, 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 whatever this, I can't even remember what I was pissed about. And the therapist asked him, what do you think that Lala is thinking right now? And he looked at me and he goes, I think she hates me right now. And I did. That was exactly what I thought at that moment. And it kind of devolved into, you know, some moment really soon thereafter, he stood up and said, I'm never coming back here again, and walked out. And I knew it was over. And I left, I think a month or 2 months later.
I mean, is that about 8 years into the marriage? Am I correct? 32?
9.
Okay. And that was your second child was about one year old?
She would have been 2 by the time this was, she would have been 2. No, she was going to turn 2. So just about 2 years
So
old.
You felt like basically the way the marriage, the habits and the behaviors that had transpired over, you know, the last few years, you just got sick of them. Was there anything specific that you could elaborate on a type of behavior or a thing that really? Is that you snickering? I was like, what's that?
Because I know I can tell you exactly what it is.
I'm curious because it's such a, you know, like, I'm not happy. What does that mean? Or his behavior is bad. What does that mean? What specifically was really bad?
So this is, well, I mean, I can laugh about it out because people say, why'd you get divorced? And I said, I got divorced over paper towels
Oh, God.
because I came home from shopping and I had bought a pricier brand of paper towels. And he looked at it and he's like, why did you buy these paper towels? These are the expensive ones. And I'm just like, why the F do you care? I'm the one who cleans the house. And I just was like, one of these moments when you're going, what is the need for you to talk about, like, for him on his part, like, why are we engaging in this behavior? Why do you care what paper towels I buy? Why is this even an issue that you're going to get in a fight with me about it? And it was just constant stuff like that. And kind of me coming out of this place of, 3 years of survival mode where I kind of let him do a lot of different things because I just didn't have the energy to think about it. I'm like, you want to pay all the bills this way? That's fine. You want to buy that? That's fine. And then suddenly, after second kid's a year old, and I'm kind of like, wait, what? I don't like that. And I started saying, hey, I don't like that. And he liked it very much how he had set himself up. And so that was sort of it.
Do you think this is one of those things where it's not one big thing that's an obvious thing, such as when someone cheats or there's abuse, where it's one of those things when you live together for so long, things mount up and you just kind of get sick of each other? Is that what it's?
Yeah, I would say it like this.
Okay.
There was no big reason that I got divorced. It was two
Right.
people who weren't able to make each other happy anymore. And that's really
Interesting.
the long and the short of it. We were not able to make each other happy anymore, or wanted to, I guess, even.
Would you say, this is an interesting question, would you say, and I'm going to throw in my parents in there. Sorry, Mom.
Mm-hmm.
My parents have been married, I don't know, 40 plus years, right? Lifetime Achievement Award, gold medal status for marriage, right? They definitely don't make each other happy all the time. So they definitely have, when you're around them, sometimes I'm like, God, just give it, you know what I mean? Like, but they stuck it out. I call it the love pension. Now my mom's in her late 60s, my dad's in his early 70s, and they're not going to get a divorce, right? It's like till death do us part. I'm curious, is part of signing up for marriage saying I'm not always going to be happy with this person?
Absolutely.
And so then you have to decide how far that's going to go, right? Is that, I mean, because that's part of the deal. So did you feel like when you got to that point that you said, wow, I'm just really not happy, he's not happy, were you guys just at a point where you're quote unquote maybe going through the motions, like just
No, I mean, because you're making me think about things I actually haven't thought about in a long time. I mean, I went into it with the expectation I was going to be married to him for the rest of my life. It was not a disposable relationship or a thought that I would end our marriage. And, I left with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. So it tells you about how unhappy I was. I mean, essentially, I think I'm going to see if I can explain this right.
Sure.
If I hadn't had kids, I probably would have continued in the way the relationship was going. But to maintain being in the relationship, I was so unhappy. I was basically emotionally shut down. And I couldn't be a good mom if I'm emotionally shut down.
Mm-hmm. So you get a divorce. You've been divorced how long now?
Legally, 4 years, but it took us a while to get divorced. So it was 2015 was the end.
So even if it was 4 years, you were moved out from each other for 5 or 6 years, kind of done.
6.
And so, did it end up when you got into the divorce? Obviously, you went to the marriage counselor. That was kind of the beginning of the end, or the end when you guys had the referee. I call the counselor the referee. When you're arguing, I've actually had other people I know that say that's when it ended, because everyone's kind of putting their cards on the table because you got that referee. They're like, and the counselor will ask one of those questions where you're like, and you said it in front of someone else too, right? I think there's a little bit of, there was a friend of mine, he's in his late 40s, early 50s, I think. And he told me about a marriage counselor situation where basically they asked a similar question to his wife, and his wife was like, I don't love him. I don't, and I don't love him. I don't, something very dark and hurtful, but honest.
Mm-hmm.
And then the marriage counselor's like, how do you feel about that? And he's like, that's when I knew I'm getting a divorce. Like, I'm done now. Like, not like we've just said what we can't come back from. And it feels like what happened there is similar, that I hate you.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think now that he also said, I don't care that you're unhappy. And then he walked out. So,
tit for tat. I'll get you back. How
Yeah.
about this one? Stick this one in your pipe and smoke it. So, right? So it just goes back to people want you to feel how they feel. Like whenever someone hurts you, we want to get, myself included, like being revengeful or vengeful is a human trait. So it's something we want to have some restraint on, but it's not always possible. So you got a divorce. You go through that. How was the process? Was it tough? Was it harder than you thought? Did you question why you did it while you were in the process of getting the divorce?
No, never questioned it. I knew it was the right decision for me. And I'll tell you, I say getting divorced was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life.
Okay.
Because I think so. I would have been 41.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 41 when I left, and I had just started my own business, and I was under I would have appointments and I would just not even know I did. And I would leave because I was so foggy in emotion, and I'd get a call like, where are you? And I'm like, oh, I'll come right back. Like it was just walking around in a fog for a year of just doing what you need to, prioritize what you have to. And it was not, and I have, I'm financially independent. I don't have other things that other people who are trying to leave their spouse have to deal with. I had the money to go rent a house and get myself furniture and do all that stuff.
Good for you.
So I didn't have that kind of procedural stuff, I guess. I don't know how she'd say that, to deal with. But it was hard. First 2 years were hard.
Why was it hard? Obviously, it was the right move for you. At the time, you felt like it was the right move regardless of it being hard, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what was the hard part?
I didn't want my marriage to end. It wasn't like, even though I was the one who technically left and called it done. Mm-hmm. I wasn't happy with the decision at the time. It was what I needed to do because I felt like I could not continue to be there, in a real sense. And it was just like rebuilding your whole life. You leave I walked out of the house that I had bought with him, and literally, I think I took the clothes on my back. Why I did that, I regret that part of it, but, and I rebuilt my entire life, and
you regret leaving the house that you were in? What do you regret?
Yeah. Oh, because why I should have made him leave. I had the kids.
Well, this is interesting because there's a lot of assumptions out there, especially in American culture, that, the woman always makes the guy pay child support when they have the kids and keeps the house, and the guy ends up in a studio apartment in the ghetto. And that happens sometimes. But I tell people it doesn't always. And it sounds like here it didn't, right? I mean, even though you got in, it doesn't sound like, I don't want to get into the custody and all the other itty bitties, but it doesn't sound like you went after him financially in any way, correct?
We'll just move on from that topic.
Okay. Okay. Good.
But what I will say is...
It's okay, hon. Some things are personal.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of people that make assumptions that it's always motivated that way. And hey, there's some stories out there where there's some women that are, they obviously, had no moral compass or any kind of feelings towards the guy when they went after their pension or things like that and really put him in a bad position. You know what I mean? And I think people assume that that's always the case. And I don't think it's, you got to look at it case by case and situation by situation. So, so you're moving on, and you said 2 years later, post-divorce, the smoke kind of clears, you get your own place, and then you moved to a, dare I say, a ranch or a small farm?
Well, we're speeding up a little bit, but yeah, no, the house took a long time to, and this actually was really a good. Actually, ended up benefiting both of us. I was trying to let him be able to buy me out of the house and get it refinanced, and he couldn't do it. So it took actually till 2018, so 3 years to sell the house. But the benefit of that is that we made 100% profit on our house.
Sweet.
So we both walked with a lot of money.
Good.
And then I was able to buy my quote unquote dream ranch that, I'm doing all kinds of things with my life that I never thought I would do. And so it's been ultimately a very empowering experience.
Cool.
To get divorced, because like I always have these thoughts like, oh, I'm gonna get empowered by it, but it's not like you feel like Superman. It's like because you do some fucking hard work to get yourself to where you want to go, and you're like, I can't believe I actually did that, and you do.
So that's really cool. So there's some serendipity involved here that even though, okay, so everything didn't go flowingly or great with the, let's just say the asset, what would you call that?
Division of property.
Okay, you would know. So, right, which is something that's important. That's important for people when they get a divorce. You have to be treated fairly. So, but the idea that you made the effort that like if you could buy me out, I'm okay with that, and you let him have some time to try to do that, and then it ended up working in your favor because the market went up. Correct?
Yeah.
By chance. And so it ended up working out good for both of you, and I'm sure you were happy that you both made some money. Was this something you always wanted, like a piece of property where you could have some animals and things like that?
Yeah, I did. But my ex-husband grew up on a ranch, so his idea of it being a romantic thing was like, you never had to get up and go feed animals and do all this stuff when it was cold and the animals. He's like, no. He didn't want to have a dog.
Okay, so that's interesting because
yeah.
Well, that's an important thing, I think, long term in a marriage or something like that, because pets are a part of your family a lot of times. I mean, some people might think that's kind of crazy, but if you're a dog lover or a cat lover, that's not necessarily something you get divorced over, but it's definitely something that is taken into consideration that adds to your family life because those pets become part of it. So you got your place, and it ended up being a silver lining in the divorce that you guys had some issues dividing that property, but then the market goes up, you get some money, you get your place. And then when did you start dating again?
About the 2-year mark.
2 year. And did you feel like you just, after you got divorced, like, I'm not going to date. I'm just going to take a break. I'm just going to go on a relationship fast.
I just didn't have the energy for it. Like, I was like, I remember having, friends of mine who's like, oh, are you dating anyone? I'm like, no, I don't even want to. I didn't even like so much as go out for a cup of coffee with somebody for 2 years. Nothing.
And you were okay with it though?
Yeah, I was.
This wasn't, and you just concentrated on being a mom and your job.
Yeah.
Okay. And like I said, like some people are like, hey, what's going on? Are you all right? And you're like, no. Maybe is it possible that because the last few years of your marriage weren't happy, quote unquote, as you'd say, and it seems like there was a lot of, paper towels issues, little petty things that add up. If I might say that, probably when you were living alone, you just go, "This is nice. I got the fucking expensive paper towels."
It was fabulous. Like I was a little over the top, Like I was like, I could do whatever the hell I want, and I just would, maybe did some poor financial choices after I got divorced that I'm working through now. But it was definitely a feeling of like freedom, Like,
I think it's go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting. I have a bad habit.
That was it. I was just like, it was freedom. So
I think it's underrated because I haven't been married before, but I've lived with girlfriends for 5 years and 7. I say 7. She says 8. Whatever. She's like, it was 8. It's like, okay, you win. Fine. Whatever. It's the first time we met. We'll count it. But there were overall good relationships and things like that. But I've said this before. Living together, it's so different, and there's things that will irritate and annoy you that add up.
The things you think are cute and darling are the things you just like want to stab them in the back for.
Right.
5 years into it.
Right. Well, and you just, here's the thing that I'm telling people now that is when someone starts to date again, especially people that are like in their early to mid 20s that keep filtering for bad partners, that are like, oh, and then they did this and then they did that. And I'm like, why are you with them? Why do you keep, and they're not seeing it up front because they're letting things go because they're just attracted to the person, or what my point is, if you're with someone for a year or 2 years and you hate the mother-in-law because she's always in your business, that's not going away in 10 years. It's going to get worse.
Worse. Absolutely.
Does that make sense? And I have a client like that right now, and I feel bad because I feel like the guy she's dating is great. He seems like a great guy. I'm on his side. She talks to me about a lot of different things, and I'm like, if you want to get married, right? I'm like, those little things that you kind of let go of or you give into, those are going to become bigger. And then there's certain things that you can, I think marriage is one of those things you really have to go, I'm just going to deal with this. I'm going to deal with the fact that, he leaves the toilet seat up or the paper, like those are things that some people are able to let go. Some other people go, no, I'm just sick of it all. And so when you do live alone again, you kind of go, cool. I don't have to negotiate all these other little things that we've been.
Yeah. So exactly. So I bought my house, which was bank owned. I know you'll appreciate that. Bank owned, had been lived in for 4 years. So I got quite the deal on it.
Sweet.
But it needed a lot of cosmetic work. And I was like, I've fixed this whole house up and I haven't had a fight with one time about what color I'm going to paint the walls or what I'm going to put here. It's fabulous. It's like, do whatever I want.
It's all and in the back of your head, you're like, he would have hated this, right?
Probably at the time, yeah. But now I'm just happy to, yeah.
Okay.
Now I'm just like, yeah. It's like I said, I feel like, I think we've kind of talked about this before. I feel like my life post-divorce after the first 2 years, so from 43 to now, has been the best time of my life, even with what happened last year. Best time of my life.
What would attribute to that being the best time of your life, if you could kind of elaborate or narrow that down?
Because I know who I am, I know what I want, and I'm not afraid to try to make it happen.
Sweet. That's a great way to put it, because I think I've mentioned this on the live stream before, that I was talking to a friend of mine that's in his, I think he's like 43, 44, and he was like, sometimes we just don't know who we are till we're in our 40s. And I was like, that's a good point. He's like, you're always kind of playing by the rules, or you got to get this job, or
doing things to make other people happy instead of yourself.
Yeah, and sometimes
at the expense of yourself.
I think being alone for a little bit invigorates you to kind of dive a little deeper into who you are, because and what you really want. It sounds simple, right? It sounds like self-improvement 101, and everyone talks about finding your purpose. I'm almost exhausted by hearing that phrase now. And I'm pro self-improvement. Yeah. I am, but I like to go like, it's not enough to go, you need to be on your purpose. What is it like? Let's get a little deeper. What is it you want to do, rather than use the word purpose all the time? Because that could be so many different things. And actually put a topic to that, or put a specific thing to that. I think that that's important, and it takes time sometimes it takes time to be alone to do that, because we're always encouraged and influenced by the people around us. People don't want to admit that. I'm certainly not a pushover or a crowd follower myself. Never have been.
Really?
No.
Really? Shocking.
I just never have been. But I've met other people that are. But I will say this: if you're around friends or bosses or colleagues enough, they do influence you. So in different ways. And so being alone has its value in figuring out where you're at and what you're doing. And so that's really interesting that you'd say, at this point, everything that's happened, you feel like you're in your best place. You're in your best place that you could be in. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's refreshing
I
to hear.
think a lot of being like in your 40s is going, wow, why am I doing that? I don't really like that. Why am I doing that? To make other people happy? Okay, well, am I doing it to make other people happy at the expense of myself? Oh, I am. And just saying no to, well, let me put it in a better, more positive way. Putting yourself first, not in a selfish way, but putting your needs and your need to have things your way. That sounds bad too. Putting yourself first in a positive way, so that, and I'm just like I said, I know what I want, I know who I am, and I'm not. It's like I care what other people think about me. I'm not gonna lie, but it's still like
Sure, you're human.
it's not my primary motivation of like, well, if I do that, what will people think? I'm just like, I want to try it. I'm going to do it.
I like it. I like it. Can I ask you this? What would you recommend if someone was looking to get married and have kids as a woman in her late 20s to early 30s, and she feels like her biological clock's ticking and she's wasting time? What advice
That
would you
is a
give?
mentality that's going to end up with you being unhappy. I mean, I will share, as I said, and I will say this, preface this by saying, I wish I had not waited as long as I did, but probably not for the reason people think. Because I had my first baby at 36 and my second almost 40. And the only reason I wish I had done it early is because I'm going to be an old grandma. And how am I going to chase after my grandkids if I'm so old?
Okay.
But otherwise, I mean, because there's no good time to have a kid. There's never a good time, right? To plan to have one. There's never a good time. And I waited until I was financially secure in a secure relationship to do it. But, I've had friends who got kids in their 20s and things worked out for some and for some not. You have to go and kind of circling back to what I said. You need to know who you are as a person and what you want out of life. And some people know it early. Some people like me were gypsies for a while. But just to say, like, I have to get married to this guy or some guy who's good enough, that's not going to end up well for you. Because it's, as we've talked about, marriage is any long-term relationship. Marriage is hard. And it's not just being married doesn't make things magically okay.
I like that advice. I would say that I've battled that with a few clients before, that I don't know if it's going to get better by just doing that. But it was funny when you mentioned that you were financially secure, because you were like, there's no good time to have a kid. And in my head, I was thinking, well, you kind of want to be financially secure, because that's what's always in my head. That's a huge hurdle to deal with if raising your kids and you have trouble with money, you're having money problems. But by the way, in saying that, my late sister had a kid at 18, 19, obviously not planned, had a lot of pressure in doing that, made the decision to have the kid, which, years later, when you have my niece around, you go, wow, great decision. But she found a way. She was, you know what I mean?
And you will. And you will.
I've heard other people say that before. I don't think it's ideal to do it unplanned or not have money. But by the way, if you're a responsible individual and you care, and usually they say once the baby comes out, a lot of people, not all people are under that umbrella. It'll make you grow up quick and put your priorities in perspective. And whenever I have like one video that was about a pregnant story, about, getting pregnant and the guy leaves and whatnot. And a lot of women make comments about that. And I say, what you got to do that you'll never regret is put your kids first. And I don't think you'll regret that, because at that point, that a lot of times that is your purpose, is being a good parent and providing for them and giving them what would be a good education and a good upbringing. And so that's kind of built in once that happens. And I like you just said, you figure it out because you have to, right? The pressure's,
you just do.
The pressure's on.
I know my mom was like, well, what are you going to do when you go back to work? And I'm like, or some point, I can't remember what she was. And I'm like, I don't know, Mom, I'm just going to figure it out, just like everybody else. Because you just do.
Yeah. Bet on yourself, right? I mean, it's true. So we'll shift a little bit into, I'm curious, now that you're single and you're happy with yourself, you're in a good position, you're highly independent. What's your take on dating apps?
Well, because I live in the middle of kind of know, well, I don't live in the middle of nowhere, but I live in a place that I didn't grow up. I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody's brother. I don't go to church. All my friends are married. Okay, so there's not like a group of people and I don't go to bars anymore. Well, I mean, to like go out and meet people like that.
Mm-hmm.
And my job is limited in the kind of people who I would meet. So my sister came over. She's much younger than me, and she came into town at this like 2-year mark, and she was on Bumble, and I'm like, or was it Tinder? I can't remember which one it was, but I was like, isn't that just for like hookups and like just like fucking with people? And she's like, no. So she pulls up and starts showing me like all these people, all these guys, and I'm like, well, he looks normal, and so. So I think that night she created a profile for me, and I went out, went out on one date with somebody. It was fine. Nothing happened. It was neither good for neither. But the second date I went out on, because I actually liked that guy better. So I wanted to have a practice date with somebody who I wasn't all that into.
Good.
I ended up dating him for maybe 6 months. And we still talk, we're still friends. And in fact, I was texting with him today. So I think, but there's definitely the dark side and the scammer side. And I just look at online dating as it's a way to be introduced to people. Once you meet them, the rest is up to you as a human being. So there's definitely, good and bad to it. Mm-hmm. Good and bad to it.
Mm-hmm. That's a good perspective on it, because there's and also I would add that, being someone like yourself that's moved a few times. If I don't know everywhere you move, but you've lived in a few different cities, because there's some people that have just lived in their hometown, right? And they have a lot of contacts and connections and meet a lot of people that way. The longer you live somewhere, and then there's just rural areas like you said you live in, that you're at a disadvantage to meet someone new when there's less people in your town. I know that sounds simple, but it's true. If you live in a major city and you're somewhat active or go out, you're going to fall into meeting more people. I know the dynamics have changed because of dating apps and online, but environments count. And so, and especially when you said like all my friends are married, because I talk to people about this when they complain about dating apps, and I go, well, where you live right now in your circle of friends, you're going to have to look at, being a part of new groups, or what's the alternative to dating apps. Sometimes there's not a whole lot at this point in the world. But I like how you, instead of being negative about it, you go, it's an introduction. And then also someone might not like the fact that you went, well, I went on this date as practice. Oh, you use this guy as practice? I'm all for dating and being okay with bad dates, and being okay with this date might not work out, but I need to get back out there. Like I needed to see what it's like.
I liked him enough. I wouldn't have gone out. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, some guy I'm just going to practice. I mean, I went out because I thought he was interesting, and there wasn't any chemistry, right? So that's fine. But if there had been, who knows, right? It was just, I think, what I think you have to think about in online dating is that the person who you're meeting doesn't owe you anything, right? They don't know you. They don't owe you anything. If they ghost you all of a sudden, well, that's kind of rude, but they didn't know you anything. They don't know you. And you just kind of have to go in with that expectation of, especially with COVID times, online dating has been just kind of a waste of time, because somebody will say, oh, let's meet, and then they never call you back, or they never set it up. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, they don't know me anything. They don't know me.
That's a good way to look at it. It's not personal.
Yeah. No, it isn't, because they don't know you. Like, I had a friend of mine who had this great first date, and she thought I met him online, thought it was awesome. And he texts her like, you're just not my type. And she's like, wait, how did we have this great, awesome date, and he doesn't like me? And I'm like, he doesn't know you. He has an idea of who you present. He doesn't know you. And if he's that kind of person, it's always easy to say on the advice giving side, he's not worth your time.
Well, also, you might have thought it was a great date, and he really didn't, and you just interpreted it as something that was better for you, and why wasn't it better for him? People always think like, why didn't you have the same feelings? And 2 or 3 dates, you still, like you just said, you don't know a person. Sometimes you don't know a person for 3 or 4 months. People are like, we were dating for 6 months, and then he or she did this, and I'm like, that's when you really got to know them. Right? That's
Yes.
that's when
Yes.
that's when something came out and you're like, oh, you actually do that to people, or you actually act that way with your friends. And so it's, it's a process. So I'm going to go into, are you okay with time right now? We're at an hour, of a little
Yeah.
bit longer. Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm
good
just
if
going
you
to
are.
ask you some rapid fire questions about some fun topics so we can transition a little bit where, what are some books that maybe changed your life? Is there a book in your life that you read or listened to?
Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
Oh, I've heard of that book.
Oh, it's a classic hippies book, right? This
Yeah.
guy takes his son on a motorcycle ride, and it takes place, I guess, in the late 60s, early 70s. And I guess it's supposed to be somewhat true. And his kid is like 13 years old, and they go all around the United States and do different things. And the motorcycle is constantly breaking down. And he talks about fixing the motorcycle is what's the word? When it's something representing something else, I can't remember what the word is. An analogy for life, right? So Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance is about seeing the importance of small things. And it just was kind of this sort of like, the phrase I remember most about that book is just sort of one of the things I like to think about all the time. And you'll like this. So his kid is, they're driving up a mountain, and the motorcycle's breaking down or something's going on. And his kid is all upset, and he's like, we have so much far to go. And he says, don't look up at the mountain and see how far you have to go. Look back and see how far you've come. And I just, that's the kind of, I think, it was when I was sick. I read it when I was like 16. So, but it was a real
I've heard that book. I'm a big fan of Tim Ferriss's podcast, and he interviews a lot of high profile authors and let's just say people that are successful in different things. And I've heard that book come up as a book that they choose. Rob IS says, can I ask some rapid fire questions as well? You can post them, and then I'll come back after I finish mine, Rob. So,
okay.
Rob had asked one question about your husband, or excuse me, your ex-husband, and he said, was he a beta male?
No.
I never got that from you. I never got that from you.
Not at all. In fact, he was used to being in charge of other people, and very much was the head of the ship, if you want to call it that.
Okay. Because sometimes some people will go, oh, this person's just being, because I think that there's moments where someone can be, masculine or both, but I didn't get that from you that was an issue or something like that. It was, I think we've covered why, and it wasn't that. It wasn't that.
Yeah, and I think that's why when he went from being a person of authority and to not, that was what was, I think at essence, what was, really changed his personality and how he felt about himself.
Or in his role in the marriage, maybe, because I think that whenever you have and you didn't talk about this, but in the field he was in, there's a certain level of status, right, of where you work. I think that's we're not going to say what he did necessarily, but he, there was status involved. And so just like a simple thing would be like a baseball player goes single A, double A, triple A, the pros, if people know what that is. Maybe not everyone knows baseball, but if you go from the pro,
baseball, I'm unfamiliar with is that a sport here?
If you go from the pros to the minor leagues to out of work, it's hard to get back to the pros. Right?
Bull Durham. Let's Bull Durham. Right?
Yeah. Good point. So I'm saying that has a hit on your ego, and that would definitely affect. That's why when I get into coaching sessions, I ask about your job and where people are at with that and where the partner's at, because some people will go, no, right when we broke up, that's when they got laid off. It's not by accident. It's not. It affects. It bleeds over for sure. So a deep question here. What do you think was the greatest moment in your life?
Single moment?
Whatever comes to mind.
It was the day I got the keys to my house, and I went in and painted the garage because the garage was really shitty. And I just remember thinking, like, this is my wall. I own 360% of it, but this is my wall. And that was a really good feeling.
And this is the place that you bought recently, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty. And you just had a moment where you felt it alone, right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What would you put on a billboard if you could put anything?
Oh, I know what it is.
Don't drink and drive. No.
No, it's just because you did it doesn't mean you're guilty.
Wow. OJ. No. Okay. What's your biggest goal right now?
Mm-hmm. And I think this is probably a lot of people's goal, getting back to feeling normal, because I have not felt normal, even though I've said, I'm in a really positive place. This is just within the past, say, 3 months of really feeling like I'm getting back to the person who I was a year ago, pre-COVID and pre-everything that happened.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to keep that momentum going to get myself back into the being in a positive headspace.
Okay. I think we covered this already because the next question was when has crisis been a turning point in your life? You've had a couple moments you talked about here.
My whole life.
When has crisis been a turning point in your life, and how did you learn from it? Is there one that pops up first?
No, I think we've hit the major ones so
Yeah,
far. I think.
yeah. Especially that moment in the apartment that you had with that first boyfriend, right? I would say that's pretty up there.
Yeah, I mean, that was 25 years ago.
Isn't that amazing how time flies, and then you can remember it?
I'm gonna
Don't,
old fart.
It was a horrible thing that happened, but was there something that you learned from it that you carry now that's important to you?
You do what you got to do to get through to the next day, and don't judge yourself about it.
Good point, hon. I often tell people sometimes when they're when I'm talking to someone and they just can't shake it, right? Like it's like you get some people and anything I say or do, it's like, yeah, but, well, actually, yeah, but, and you're like, okay, because I'm not a pushy person. I'm not you have to do this, you have to do that. Let's unpack it. Let's talk about it. Let's see your choices. I'm not going to state the obvious of, you should just get over this. But sometimes people can be a little exhausting with, when's it going to end? When am I going to feel better? And I say, you know what you got to do? You just got to keep showing up in your life. And I think that's, like you got to go to work the next day. You got to be a good sibling. You got to be a good friend to your friends. You have other roles in your life, and keep showing up. Do what you got to do. So if you had $10 million, what would you do with it?
What would I do with the money, or what would I would just be like living my little farm life and being a fiber artist and doing actual work and just kind of live my dreams.
A Fiverr artist? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Well, I weave and I spin, and that's part of the reason as to why I have the ranch, because I have animals that I make things out of their fiber.
Okay. Okay, cool. So you wouldn't change. So, hey, listen, not much would change. So it sounds like you're living a pretty good life that doesn't even need $10 million. It would just allow you to do more of the weaving, right? And the
right. I mean, yeah.
You didn't come up with something
I wouldn't mind a sugar daddy, but it's not necessary.
Right. I wouldn't mind a sugar mama. So if you had 3 wishes, what would they be?
I don't have an answer for that. I don't think like that. I guess I don't have an answer for that.
Okay, no problem. This is what's funny about that is I've had some people email me like a day or two later, and they're like, actually, I came up with 3 wishes, Mac. I'm like, okay,
of course,
I'll contact the genie.
3 more wishes. 3 more wishes would be my last.
Oh, you're one of those. Okay, you think strategically. Okay, you're like, actually, I'll wish for 100 more wishes. Okay. I don't know what to say to that. What do you do when you're stressed out?
Talk to friends.
Okay. And you told me you have a really good friend from, I remember, like middle school or something that you stayed close?
Yeah. Oh,
That's
actually,
cool.
So she's engaged, and I said, are you legally going to get married? Like, for real get married? I mean, like, this is my perspective again. Get a little tainted on this. Have the wedding. Wear a pretty dress. Invite people over. Don't sign the paperwork.
What'd she say? What'd she say?
She was like, well, she's been divorced too. So she's like, yeah, I don't know. So
She's like,
she's
bad
my best
joke.
friend. We've been friends. We've been
Bad
friends since
joke.
13. So I could say this to her, right?
And you say it privately. You don't say it in front of friends. Yeah. It's so funny because it's like there's certain things like you can give each other a hard time. You just don't do it publicly, right? It's like you don't throw that out in front of a group, but like you know each other. So what changed your life for the better and you didn't know it at the time?
I don't know. I feel like there's so many points in my life where I was unaware of many things that I was doing that ultimately ended up being beneficial to me. And I think that's sort of, I guess I always just think, how am I going to be better at whatever I'm doing? How is this going to be better? How can I improve myself? How can I make it better? So anytime I'm kind of coming up against something that's not the way I want it to be, I'm going to figure out a way to go make it better. I mean, that's my whole job, really.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a kind of mindset I'm always in, is like, how do you make this better? How do you come back from the worst of the worst to a tolerable or good place?
Okay. What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
You got a good body, don't hide it.
Yeah. Good for you.
You're never going to look like that again. You're never going to look like that again.
Oh, wow.
Be
The
proud
gem
of it.
comes out an hour and 20 minutes in. Soundbite that one. That's a great answer, huh? Because I always say, like, people are going to get sick of me saying this. I'd like to be 20 again, but let me take my wisdom with me, right? Like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to go with my 20-year-old mind again. But yeah,
No.
that's funny. What would you tell your 29-year-old self? Would it be the same thing?
No. 29-year-old self would have been, you are working in the way things are going to where you want them to. Maybe not at the speed or in the path you think they're going, but you are going towards your goals.
Oh, that's good. I like that advice because a lot of times we all want certainty. Hence the safe job with a pension and benefits, right? Like we want certainty, and sometimes we're like, is it going to work out? Is it going to work out? And you saying that is true. Like you wish you could have told your 29-year-old self that, right? Because you probably were a little anxious or worried about how things are going to end up. I would say probably.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big transition between school and going into work in my job, and there's lots of stress related around that transition. So, yeah.
What's the best dating advice you were given?
Best dating advice? I don't know.
Okay.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Okay, that's all right. We can skip that. What's the greatest business advice someone gave you, or investing advice?
Don't make decisions when you're upset.
That's a good one. Don't make, especially
or based on emotion, I guess is the way to say it.
I was just going to say
based
that. Yeah, people that I know that are in business or entrepreneurs bring that one up a lot, and they don't use emotion in business. I've been around them. Like, you don't even care about firing people, do you? What's your 3 best abilities or talents?
I can fix anything mechanically.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, you said that with such confidence, too. Go ahead, try me. Well, I have this ham radio that I want to send over to you.
Well, I say this is my lawnmower. Something's wrong with the carburetor, and I can't figure out what's wrong with it. And I just keep spraying starter fluid in it to get it started.
Oh, God.
So I say that with like a little MacGyver in me, right?
MacGyver. I remember that show. That was a great show.
Second, I'm not afraid to try things that I don't know how to do.
Cool.
My third, what was it? My talent, my third talent.
Best abilities or talents, slash whatever it comes to.
Oh, I can talk to anybody.
That's a skill. That's a skill.
I can talk to anybody.
That's a skill. And you said those all quickly and with confidence, so you believe them. I think this is a good one. What kind of relationship are you looking for now?
So I'm going to comment on something you said, I think, in a
Sure.
live stream a couple of weeks ago, which is women my age just want to find some guy to like be the new spouse to their kids and have this whole life, like the repeat of the one they didn't have. Totally not the truth for me.
Okay.
I think I have like, I think I'm going to be a hard person to have a relationship with because I don't see myself getting married again. I don't see myself living with somebody, but I do want to have a person in my life who I depend on emotionally. I talk about things and have a partner, but it kind of has to be in a way that's okay with me too. And I don't think that's everybody's, that's not what everybody would want to sign up for.
So you're saying that I'm okay not getting married. I'm okay not living together. And part of that is that you're, dare I say, you support yourself financially. You're not looking for that anchor in the household. You're not looking for a stepdad either.
Well, I wouldn't say no if they had money, but then I might get married if they had money.
Well, you're just being honest now, right? So, but
Yeah.
but what you're saying is you're okay with a casual relationship that works.
See, but I don't think I see it as casual. That's
Okay,
where
tell
I
me.
say, like, I would want to be in a committed relationship with somebody. Definitely. Like, I wouldn't want to just keep playing around and dating people. That seems like a drag. But I also think the kind of person who gets me would probably get me and get them. I have a need for my own
Space.
and like, I hate this word, agency, right? That I am who I am. And I don't think that's every guy who's going to like that.
One thing I've noticed actually in doing this for a little while, there's kind of this sweet spot where people that are either in long distance relationships that aren't that aren't that long distance, like an hour or 2 hours apart in a drive or something, and they're able to see each other 2 to 3 times a week. It seems like those relationships are really good. And then if they live together, that's when it changes quite quickly, or when someone moves farther. So it seems like that's actually, and I'm saying what you're saying, like a monogamous relationship 2 to 3 times a week, but where you don't live together, you're okay with that. You're okay with the fact that you don't live together, because some people are like, we should be living together, we should be doing this. So it seems like you're more open to, we don't have to get married, we don't have to live together. You wouldn't have those pressures built in, which some people do. So I know where you're coming from on that. So currently, where are you looking? Are you doing dating apps, or are you taking a break, or is it hard?
Well, I've started seeing somebody who I've known for a while, and in fact was casually dating him when I met the person that I had the relationship and came to you about. So, and he circled back at some point after I had broken up with that guy. And he was like, "What's up?" And I was like, "Okay," because I always enjoyed him. It just was sort of, I thought there was somebody, that I really connected with. And so I was honest with him because he had asked to go out with me. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm kind of seeing somebody else." And he was like, "Okay, cool." And he and I are just kind of in the early stages of deciding if it's going to be a good fit or not, I guess.
Cool. Well, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're taking it easy and you're happy with where you're at.
And he travels a lot. See, so it's like exactly like you
I was
said.
going to say, it was the past one, right? Was like that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like that's something that you can accept. So not everyone can accept that you can handle that. Is that true?
It's not even that I can. Yeah, I mean, I won't say it doesn't give me anxiety. Like it does. If there's a certain, of course, part of you which is like, well, what's happening when they're not here? And I don't mean this like in a jealous way or anything, but like, why don't they want to spend time with me? I mean, that certainly had that part of my mind for sure. But in reality, I like the distance as much as probably they do. Because I think there's nothing greater than like seeing somebody that you haven't seen for a while. Then it's like so much fun.
Right. Yeah. There's a book by Esther Pearl called Mating in Captivity.
Yes.
I don't know if you've heard of that book.
Yep. Yeah, I've read it.
It's like people always ask, like, "Oh, what are your certifications?" I read a lot. I do, like a lot of this, and watch a lot of psychology stuff and everything like that. But yeah, one of the things that she comes up with that sounds simplistic with all her qualifications and certifications and being a New York, I don't know if she's a psychoanalyst or not. I'm not sure, but she's got vast experience.
She's a marriage counselor.
Is that what it is specifically? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that she comes back to is for people to get space, for people to miss each other. And, and you know, it's like I said, it seems simplistic, but I think that it's a big one. It's like looking at my parents' relationship and it's not perfect and there could have been a divorce and this and that. But my father always had hunting or fishing, and he would go away for the weekend on his own. We would just go away, or he would go away on his own, and my mom didn't have any issue. I think it's good for a relationship that you have outlets.
So I became about 3 years ago, I became friends with a woman in her 80s. And she's just like a ball. I mean, she's a great person to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
She was married to someone for 50 years, and he, died of, natural causes. And she's been a widow for probably 20 years now. And this is when I was going through the divorce and all that stuff. And I remember asking her, what is the secret to her 50-year marriage?
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, well, he was out of town a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
You think it's like going to tell you it's like give and take or blah, blah, blah. She had a happy marriage for 50 years. He was out of town a lot.
Yeah. There's a good friend of mine that he doesn't listen to the live stream that often, but he wouldn't probably mind me saying because no one would know. But he's got, I don't want to say issues, but it wouldn't be my ideal fit. I'll just put it that way. But he's married. And getting through it. And I'm like, so when he's complaining or something like that, I said, so how do you deal with staying in there? And he goes, well, he has to leave to go on business trips also. Really, he has a reason to. It's not like he's just making it up. And he's like, he values those trips as time away, as a, and then what happens if you do a month or 3 weeks or those things with your marriage partner? You miss them. Even if you don't get along, you miss them. So that helps when you get reunited. But yeah, that's so interesting that your 80-plus-year-old friend said that, right? You're looking at, you're thinking of like, oh, it's going to be a Hallmark movie, or actually, we loved each other at first sight, and, he was so wonderful. It's like shit like that doesn't happen. It's like, actually, you know what? He was out of town a lot, and it worked. It's like, oh, really?
I mean, yeah, she got married when she was 17 and stayed married to him for 50 years. So,
yeah.
She's a great lady.
Sounds like it. So I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I do want to thank you. You've divulged a lot about your life and your thinking and your, what's gone on, and I appreciate that. And it's always brave to come on a live stream and deal with, there's comments and different things like that. But I think that this is going to be helpful and useful to people out there, or especially someone that's thinking about marriage and your perspective. And also, it was kind of nice when you told me, "Wow, you're making me think about some things." Good.
This is what I will say is the as the pitch for you, Mac, because I know that from watching from the videos before you do a lot, a coaching with you, you're like, I don't know, was this bullshit? What's this going to be like, right? And the person who you are in the videos is the person who you are when you talk to you, when you have a coaching with you. And it is anybody who's on the border of like, should I do this? Shouldn't I do this? Do it. Because it was a great experience and a great process of part of how I healed from what happened with me. Anybody who wants to have a coaching with Mac, do it.
I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's very kind of you. And I thought we had a good connection and a good rapport. And that's what I always aim for is, not going to cure you, but let's talk about it, because I think I've said this before, it's underrated to just have someone listen to your whole story and talk to someone that's
right.
That's not trying hard.
Right. And you really did bring up perspectives that I had not thought of.
Thank you.
And that's the benefit of talking to somebody who doesn't know you and know them and can say, well, hey, why are you thinking it that way? Well, I don't know. I just thought that.
Yeah. And laugh a little bit too, right? because you got a good sense of humor.
Yes.
Like I said, like
Yep.
a lot of times I'm blessed in using YouTube or having the videos because you can go with the way this guy talks in videos. Do I like, there's enough videos to judge that. And then that's a real compliment because I've had other people say the same thing like, wow, man, you don't seem fake, or you're trying to, create something that you're not. So I really appreciate that. It's very kind of you.
Yep.
And we'll definitely be in contact, and maybe in the future you'll come on again because this was good. I enjoyed it, and I think you did too. So I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I did. I was a little nervous when we started, to be honest, and then I was just like, oh, I'm just talking back.
Yeah, good. Like I said, I always I'm telling people if you feel uncomfortable, I'll take it down or whatever. I'm not married, but I think this was a great conversation, and I'm gonna have more like them in the future. And your perspective counts. I think that sharing stuff like this and what you've been through, and I'm so happy to hear that you're in a really good place right now, but you're striving to be normal again, right? That's kind of the funny thing.
Well, this is what I said. Like I said, for a long time, I just wanted to be okay. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize being okay was a high bar.
Well, it's fleeting. Right? You can't stay at one point in your life forever. So it's just like when people get in love with the idea, I just want to be happy. I'm like, well, you're going to have to be sad sometimes. Otherwise you won't know what happy will be. Like how do you know you're happy if you're not sad sometimes or upset? It's like, you're never going to, anytime one of these self-improvement books is like how to be happy all the time or something, I'm like, well, good luck with that. I mean, like there's going to be some shit that happens. The best thing you can do is what you said earlier, I think, in saying that I'm going to have to deal with it. I'm going to have to figure it out. I'm going to have to get a solution. That's finding the problems that you can deal with and fix rather than just lay down and go, look what happened to me. Look.
Oh, I've certainly engaged in my woe is me moments, but, you can't stay down on the floor all the time.
Hell no.
Got to get up.
Hell no. And that's what I like about you. So we're going to close on that, and I'm going to finish up the live stream. But like I said, thank you again, and we'll be in contact, and maybe you'll come on for a round 2. Cool.
If you want. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, G Money. That's kind of good breakdown tonight. My caller was honest. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, and people out there during these live streams, you're allowed to air your opinions, sarcasm, things like that. This individual's got thick skin, and it's one of those things. Whoever does a call in and reveals and shares, give them some credit, because we're all human beings living a different life, and different perspective. And so I'm not against a couple smart ass comments or anything like that. You're having fun. It's kind of like when you watch a ball game. I'm a fan of basketball and the NBA and stuff. I've never played in the fucking NBA. I'm just a fan, but I still get down on them, or I call out like, this guy's that. And sometimes we do that with just regular people. We're like, wow, why would they do that? Or why would they do this? It's like, you're allowed to do that, but just have some boundaries. That's all. Where you go, actually, I don't know this person's walk, or how they went about it. Listen a little bit, and see if you can be objective about it. But at the same time, if you have fun making a comment or two, that's okay. I don't mind that. A couple smart-ass remarks. I know that I've had my share of that. Just, the line of when, and I don't think anyone in my live stream or currently in this one went to that point where, okay, Aussie411, I disagree, Coach. It's all about validation. Elaborate what you're talking about and what you mean, Aussie, and then I'll give you my take. What do you mean? What do you disagree with specifically, and what is all about validation? So I can address that. Anyone that has questions now, we're at an hour and a half, or specific questions, you might want to come. Ozzy, are you interested in coming on a live stream and talking about your divorces and relationships and breakups in the future? Dun. What my goal is with this and how this is evolving is I'm giving the airwaves to just, dare I say, people that are not successful and famous, and hearing their stories and perspectives, and they didn't make $20 million or start a big company or write 10 books. These are just human beings that are sharing some of their stuff with them. I think that's pretty cool. And like I said, I don't think I'm giving people outs. I'm asking some questions that, have to make them think about what they're going to share, right? I don't know too, if I was in the role reversed, how comfortable I would be. Because I think some people, because my channel and my show doesn't have a lot of viewers or isn't a million subscribers, so people aren't as scared to think that their voice would be out there. But it still takes some guts. It still takes, and sharing is caring in a lot of ways. She wants attention and plays victim with no accountability. I disagree with that one. I do know what you mean. There are people like that. This individual that was just on isn't that person. Just isn't. So you're allowed to have your opinion. You're allowed to have your opinion. You're allowed to have your take. Nothing in that is where I'm like, wow, you can't say that, Aussie 411. But no, I didn't get that from her in this talk, nor I'm a little bit deeper with her because we've done some coaching sessions, so I know we're at a deeper level. But let me give you an example if you listen to the whole interview, because can I get a hand raise or just like a yes? I have 14 on deck, 3 likes. Who heard the interview with this individual all the way through? Ozzy's been on deck, G Money's been on deck, Rob's been on deck. If we were in class, I'd ask you to raise your hands. But to say that someone wants attention and plays the victim with no accountability, when she said her first relationship, she was physically abused and even held in an apartment for 24 hours, is actually ridiculous. Secondly, and you might, secondly, it seemed to me this wasn't a case where she was just crying. She wasn't just crying and asking for attention. She was revealing what happened and what went wrong. And I feel like her relationship transpired in a certain way, and she didn't want to stay in a relationship she was unhappy in. And I didn't feel like she was looking for attention for that. I didn't catch that. Okay, so I guess we're different people. She didn't take blame or responsibility for her actions. Okay. Rob Bias, like number 4. I don't know what number 4 is. So if you could tell me what you mean. What I did pick up was on a certain elements of what the caller said that stuck out to me. I regret not talking more financially. My divorce is empowering. Those are massive red flags to me. Okay. So those are the things that you kind of filtered for, that you heard. Keep in mind, we don't know. She didn't want to share the specifics of that. That was a choice. I do know that she has a job that she does pretty well for herself. So she's not in need of that. But as I tell anyone that comes on the live stream, if you don't want to go there on something, don't go there. But I don't think this is one of those situations where she was just going after her husband's money or trying to get child support. She takes care of herself pretty well. Windy Dawn, since you've always been on my live streams for a long time and is a devout listener, if I could say that, maybe that's a title you don't want, and you just listen, you don't comment a lot. How do you like this new format in interviewing? Thanks, Coach, but I pass. It's a long time ago. Don't want to relive that issue. Well, you also will get judgment on your end that you're giving judgment to someone else. It's kind of funny. Even cops interview both parties. 2 sides to every story, even terrible ones. G Money, I will agree with that. I will agree with that. And who knows what the other side was, right? There's always 2 sides to the story. I will agree with that. What's up, ML? How you doing, bud? Michael, thanks for starting. You were one of the first people to come on as a past client, and this has gone really well. You actually sparked me to reach out to other people to come on. Don't throw stones if you live in a glass house, Ozzy. Even violence skimmed and didn't play the victim. She skimmed and didn't play victim. I didn't think so, MC. Being proud of your divorce is odd to me. Okay, first of all, I haven't been married. I don't know what it's like to be in a divorce. What I would say that someone I can understand being proud of having, I think there's a lot of guts and courage in getting a divorce when you're not happy and you don't feel like you're gonna be happy because the people around you that are gonna judge you and what you thought the expectation of it was gonna be. And I feel like there's a lot of, this is my take, G-Money, a lot of people stay in a bad marriage for the wrong reasons and sacrifice a lot of happiness. Or I'm gonna say this, when you get divorced and it was your choice and it was her choice, you're betting on yourself. Now, someone might go, oh, you're giving up on your kid's parents, or you're giving up on marriage. In some cases, you're saying, I'm just not happy and I'm not willing to live this way another 10 or 15 years. That takes some courage, and I think later on you might be proud of yourself because it was so difficult. Now, what transpires over that divorce can be a varied amount of things. I think that she divulged in the beginning that she didn't have any intent. She thought she'd be married forever. I was the fourth person to press the thumbs up button. Again, G-Money, when you say stuff like this, keep it coming. Keep it coming. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to tell you guys what. At this point, once I've been a coach to a client, it's almost like I'm a little bit biased, right? Because once we do a coaching session, Jen's done a coaching session with me. This individual did, past clients. We're closer. And so I'm going to be a little bit biased. But I'll be honest. But it's almost like it's one of my teammates. It's one of my friends. It's someone that's close to me. So I will probably be more apt to be on their side. But if there's a reasonable question that's in then I'll go there. I'm a pretty reasonable, logical person. So, Coach, I was ahead of her step by step, or so you think, or so you believe. What's up, Jen? You would have been nice to be in this topic. Jen, you'd get along with this lady. The caller said multiple times how she didn't want to make sacrifices, put other people first. That's fine. But why make the commitment of being a wife and mother? Dissolving family is a big deal. That's a good question. And that's an individual decision for her, right? That's an individual decision for her that she made. That she wasn't willing to be in a marriage where she just was flat out unhappy and she didn't want to negotiate things any longer. And G-Money, that goes back to, I think a lot of people are like that now. They're not going to stay in a 25, 30, 40-year marriage because they think they have to, or because they think they have to for the kids. Now, let me say this, G-Money. If someone says, man, I decided about 10 years in, yeah, I maybe married the wrong person, or I wasn't really happy, but I was going to stay together for the kids and make it work, that's admirable and noble, right? I wouldn't say what an idiot. But I also would say if someone said, look, at 10 years in, I was really unhappy. It was bleeding over into my parenting skills. It was affecting my work. And so I made a call to get a divorce, and I've never been happier. That's admirable and noble as well. You're missing a lot about marriage, coach. I was there twice and divorced both the honeys. Here's what you're missing, Aussie4111, with all due respect. You've been in 2 marriages, you've been divorced. That's it. So whatever happened in those marriages and those divorces, the human brain goes, oh, that's what happened to everyone else. Oh, this is what women do in divorces because this is what happened to me. You have a playbook on those 2 divorces, and then you think, oh, this is what this woman's being a victim. No, that's how your ex acted. My perspective is I've talked to thousands of people. Am I better than you? Hell no. Just have a different perspective based on more variables. That's all. So that's what I find a lot. Whatever you saw in those 2 divorces, Ozzy, you're going to see in other people's divorces. Whatever you saw in your ex-wife, you're going to see in other people commonly. And it's going to affect the way you look at things. I'm happy about my 2 angel daughters. Well, good for you, man. But I took a lot of experience on it. I don't know what you mean by that. Maybe you phrased that wrong. Being a father is a privilege. Putting your kids first is what you should be doing. I'm liking it a lot. Thanks, Wendy Dawn. Real people, real stories, like always, but not on another level. To hear these people be brave enough to tell their stories and not just be reading to us is awesome, in my opinion. Thanks, Wendy Dawn. I value your opinion, and I'm going to keep making an attempt to get some more people on like this. And I think it's really cool. Like I said, like you said, it's brave because they're going to be judged, and that's okay. But there's also, isn't it nice just to listen to a real human that's not famous or rich, with a hidden agenda, just tell you about their perspective and some stories about their life? I think that's pretty cool. How many times does I'm unhappy really just mean I'm not attracted anymore? That's a good question, G Money. Let's maybe talk about that when me and you do a live stream. That's a philosopher's thing to unpack. And G Money, that would be, I think I'm unhappy can be attributed to individual things that you're unhappy with yourself, or it can be attributed to be I'm not attracted to you anymore. So a lot of times when I do talk to people, I do want to get a feel for how they feel about their life as an individual. They hate their job. Do they not speak to their family members? Do they fall out with friends a lot? Are they down on money? That would be I'm unhappy, and I'm projecting that onto my partner. I'm not attracted to you anymore. I'm unhappy. Could also be the case, but I would have to ask questions to get to the bottom of that. Does that make sense? She did say she went to counseling, so I think she tried to save her marriage. That's certainly an effort. Like I said, you're also, to me, a marriage counselor is a referee. You got someone that's like, not to go back to basketball over and over again, but it is my sport. You know, if I play street ball, you know, you go down to a school or a park, and you have that. We even have it in Thailand. You go down, you play, anyone that's played basketball for, and you don't have a referee. The game is so fucking different because you got to call your own fouls. You got to say who goes out of bounds. Everyone's arguing. This is one of the few times you'll see, if you could videotape me playing a street ball game, I'm pissed off the whole game sometimes. And I go, why am I getting so pissed? Someone calls a foul on me. The ball goes. I'm debating every call. There's no referee. That wasn't a foul. You're just saying that because you want the ball. Now, if you play in a league, and I'm not even saying, college, NBA, but you have a referee, I don't get mad at the other team. I don't get mad at the other guy. I get a little upset with the ref, but not as bad as when we're playing street ball and the other guy has a pure bias of calling a shitty foul or a weak foul on me. Right? I get really hot. But if I have a referee, I kind of just have to respect the call. That's their job. I get upset with the ref, or I might make a comment, but I don't carry it out. right? You go to a marriage counselor, it's a referee. Here's the catch. Here's the caveat. There's bad referees. So choose wisely when you go to one of those if you're not happy with them. There's some of them that are going to be high. I've heard of, because I hear this. We went to a marriage counselor. There was a guy I had, you could tell that before he walked in the door, the wife had built this case of such an asshole he was that when he walked in the door, he was being asked questions like he was on the stand of being this horrible person. I was like, that's one of those situations where you got to go, you know what, we got to get another marriage counselor, and you can't put me in this situation, because she was already making herself out to be the victim. Now, I have heard other situations like this where they needed it and the truth had to come out and it was a defining moment. And if she said that I hate you right now and I was married to this woman, or I was in a marriage, that would be a defining moment. I wouldn't like it, but if you felt that way in a public space with a marriage counselor, I might have to consider divorcing you. If you're going to a marriage counselor, your marriage is probably already over. It's usually a last-ditch effort. Sure, but like I said, I would say what MC said. At least you're saying, I'm not just giving up. I'll throw a referee in here to see if I'm not being fair or things aren't being divulged. Chuckster says, Mag, don't fuck with the Chuck, as the great Child's Play goes. I hope you're well, Chuckster. I hope you're doing really well. Divorce rate in U.S. is 60% on the first marriage, even higher in second and third. And why is that? Why is that? My question would be deeper, and I've unpacked this before. Is marriage no longer realistically till death do us part? Should our expectations be more shorter? Should we, instead of blaming individuals in the marriage, could we just reconstruct our thoughts on the idea of marriage working or not working? That might be for another podcast. I've talked about the 4-year sex contract as a concept. That makes sense, Mac. Thanks, G-Money. I like to make sense. Poor Warriors, stupid Lakers. You know what? It happens. The Warriors beat themselves. Humans judge others by their actions and themselves. Clutch, welcome, by the way. Humans judge others by their actions and themselves by their intentions. Let me read that one. Humans judge others by their actions. Sometimes people aren't even aware of their intentions, though, Clutch. Because I'll ask people, what's your intention in doing that? And they're not even aware. The problem with gaining input from another before sufficient time has passed is that they may not know what they did yet. And I agree. Clutch is a wordsmith. You should be a philosophical writer, man. I can tell why you get a lot of medical students that come to you. Matt, can you dunk on them because you're probably tall for people over there? I'm 6 feet tall. Truth be told, Thais, there's Thai people that are actually tall. In Thailand, where we're located, how should I say this? It's not like all the people look the same. So there's definitely some tall people in Thailand. I'll just say that. But I will say this. When I do go play basketball, which I haven't done in a little bit of a while, they like to play zone over here, and they do put me at center. But no, I've never been able to dunk. I've been able to touch the rim, but I've never been able to dunk on a 10-foot hoop. I disagree. Most marriage counselors are women and biased against men. Anyway, been there, done that. I mean, I don't mean to sound like a scientist, but where's the data on that? And even if most marriage counselors are women, there are women out there that can be a marriage counselor, that can be non-biased, that can be a better referee. And by the way, there are still men that are marriage counselors, so you could request getting one of those. That being said, I haven't been in that position, Ozzy, so I'm not jaded by it. I wouldn't like to go to a marriage counselor, but if it was, a last stop effort, I would listen. But I'm at a stage in my life, I would be able to filter for, is this marriage counselor good for us? Because I forgot who it was that was on the live stream or talked to me in a live session, and they said Patrick Bev David, I don't know if you know his YouTube channel, Valuetainment, said he went to a marriage counselor, and he said immediately he disqualified them because the marriage counselor's credentials and background didn't line up with, and he said he sat through the counseling, and he paid for it, and then he told his wife, I'll go to a marriage counselor, but not this one because he's going to be biased towards my situation. That's a good way to go about it. Warriors likely should have took a chance on LaMelo. I don't like, you know what? If we have a friend of mine said that, no, I'm not a big fan of LaMelo Ball. Maybe for another, I'll tell you what, if I do a GoFundMe, Rob, if I do a GoFundMe and start and I can get together a certain amount of money, I'll start a live stream for NBA. The divorce rate is so high because today's society has a disposable mentality. People don't want to work on a relationship. They just go find another one. It's definitely a different dynamic, Jen. I think that values are more malleable. So, I feel like I say this all the time. Grandma and grandpa had the same values from the age of 20 till the age of 80. My grandfather was a devout Catholic. He grew up, he's Irish descent, 100% Irish. Had strong family core ideals, worked the same job for 40 years, driving a truck, delivering wine, loved his job, never had any experience going on the internet, was the same person for 30, 40 years, right? I think now with society having your eyes and your mind, and you just don't realize how manipulative media and marketing is. I'm not saying, I shouldn't say that to you, Jen, but just overall, think about this. Think about when you pass a small mom and pop breakfast diner. Stay with me on this. Any of you that live in a city or town and there's a downtown, right, Jen? You got a downtown Vacaville. And you got a diner down there. And there was one in Vacaville that I actually ate at it looks like it's 30 years old or 40 years old, right? It even had the plastic red glasses with ice water in them. Those places, they've been there 30, 40 years, and that your grandma and your grandpa, your dad and your mom or whoever have gone there. The food's okay. There's nostalgia. There's vintage feel to it. Food might be great. The portions, whatever. There's not a whole lot of marketing. It's just Fred's Diner, right? What does it look like when you pass a fast food place? What does it look like when you walk into a fast food place? There's marketing everywhere. There's exciting stuff. There's specials that are cheap. There's air conditioning that's cooler. They're doing everything possible to draw you in, minus the quality and health of the food. That's marketing. Think about when you go online and you have these ads that are coming towards you on these social media platforms, and they lack substance. It's like Lala that was just on. That was an incredible compliment that she gave me, that she said, when you watch Mac's videos, that's who you're going to get in the live coaching session. Thank you. Isn't that how it's supposed to be? Now, let me ask you this. You go to the fast food restaurant compared to Fred's Diner, right? And there's this big picture of a quarter pounder, a double cheeseburger. Does the picture match the food? Right? Do they tell you the details of how unhealthy it is for you? But you go to Fred's Diner, he usually doesn't have a fake picture up there. Fred's Diner has Patty, the waitress that's worked there for 5, 6 years and friendly, there's a different feel. It's more authentic. It's more real, right? That's how you hope your marriage would be. Fred's Diner's not trying hard. They're just trying to make good food and give, and be friendly to clients. The other place is trying really hard to fool you into believing you're getting great value for your money and it's an exciting experience. But the reality is, a lot of times the food's not that good. A lot of time, someone will be like, no, the food's incredible. The reason why you like fast food that's unhealthy, folks, is because you've eaten it for so long when you're hungry that you now crave it. If you ate other types of food when you're hungry and then you went back to that, it probably wouldn't taste as good. That's just my 2 cents. I went on a tangent there. All right. Not good to have a disposable mentality, especially when kids are involved. G-Money, I'm with you, bro. I don't have kids myself, but I like to feel like you got to make every effort possible to make it work. On the flip side, you do, if you're miserable, you've been disrespected, you're extremely unhappy, you're going to be a better parent divorcing that person than being miserable and displaying that for your child. Is that true or not true? For some reason, when you say that you play basketball in Thailand, all I think is the NBA Jam type scenario. What is that? I don't know what NBA Jam type scenario means. What does that mean? Easy said than done, coach. On the marriage counselor, very hard to find in a difficult time. Okay, I'll take your word for it. I'll take your word for it. So let me ask you this, Aussie401, that doesn't want to come on the live stream to divulge your breakups, but let me ask you a personal question, if you don't mind. You had 2 divorces. Were they your choice or the ex's choice, and why? Dun, 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 dun. Like walking into a theme park or something. Some of them, right, Chuck? Marriage is the mom and pop shop. Tinder is the fast food shop, right, G-Money? You never played NBA Jam. You haven't lived. NBA Jam is an old game, right? That's a really old. I'm thinking NBA Jam of like the, not even Nintendo. I'm thinking of the one that you played, like in a pizza place or a pizza parlor with joysticks. Actually, when I was back in the Bay Area a while back with some buddies, we went to an old school arcade, and they had an NBA Jam machine that looked like it was from 1980s. I've played it before, but I don't know how that translates to live basketball. But you're a gamer, so maybe that's your perspective interpretation of it all. Probably the ex's choice, which is what's brought Ozzy to his beliefs, but I'm guessing. You think? Toasties. What's Toasties? Is that a food? Man, 2 hours in, I'm feeling good, folks. This was a great live stream today. It gives me a lot of energy. Thanks for the $5, by the way, G-Money. Anyone else that wants to throw a donation my way, it is humbly accepted. And we got 8 on deck, 6 likes. Were you on for a while? Did you get to hear this? Clutch, did you get to hear this interview today? He's on fire. Inflago. I think they used to say Inflago. You hit flow state for sure. Thanks, G-Money. I know what flow state is, too. I'm actually doing this coaching program certification thing through, it's called Optimize. Maybe I'll share some more I'll share more in a different live stream. But they give you all these kinds of things to do and whatnot. And a lot of these coach trainings, they're basically teaching you how to be the client before you're the coach, which is good. This program's pretty good. And one of the things they talk about is, it's funny because when you do a lot of research, G-Money, you seem like you're pretty well read. Like when you mention flow state and things like this, some people might wonder, what does that even mean? And it's funny you brought that up because they asked the question, like, what's your flow state? And I would say live streams and coaching sessions. So that's interesting that you said that. I get a kick out of it. Full disclosure, I put it on my phone and fall asleep. Thank you, Jen. I always appreciate your time and effort, Coach. Jen, I appreciate you more because you spell your name with 2 N's, not 1. You are not mediocre. You're Jen with 2 N's. We got to connect again soon, and let me know if you want to come on a live stream. You'd be a kick, hon. Jen putting us all to shame. Full disclosure, I put it on my phone. I fell asleep. I got the Pfizer vaccine Tuesday, and it's kicking my butt. Well, you want to hear something funny, Clutch? In Thailand, people are getting their vaccines here. We're wearing our masks, everything like that. And a lot of people really want the Pfizer vaccine, and they don't have it here. Currently, we have the China one. So that's supposed to be the one that people really want. So good for you. It's kicking my butt, meaning like you don't feel good. I hope you feel better. Yeah, Rob, the program I'm in is called Optimize. Chuckster throws in a $4.99. Thank you, Jen, for creating some momentum my way. Excuse me. Hope that burp didn't come out. I'll do a live stream. I always enjoy talking with you. I think it'll be great. I'd love to get your perspective because, Jen, you got a divorce perspective too. I think that's great. This is where this is headed. I think even today, like Lala that was on, that was great. She divulged a lot. And is there anything better than real stories? Is there anyone else that shares with me? I bet G Money's like this. There's nothing better than watching a movie that's a true story to me. Like if it's based on a true story, I know some of the shit. Sometimes based on a true story, I'm like, you know what? There's one war movie that came out that was based on a true story. I'm like, hell no. There's a World War II movie where the kid's a medic. I got to look it up. The kid's a medic. He's like 18 or 19 years old. He looks really skinny. And the things he does in the movie, I'm just like, come on. I'm like, that can't be a true story. But I like a true story. And where I'm going with this, these people that are call-ins, they're true stories. These are people's real perspectives. These are people laying out their real feelings and what happened to them. I think that's pretty cool. I'm sorry. What's up, Samantha B? How are you today? Can I call you Sam? That's easy, Coach. I divorced because I'm head of the family and the honeys disrespect my decision. And after that, they wanted a man they can boss around. I'm not that guy. So you made the decision to get a divorce based on those reasons. Okay, fair enough. So what led to that kind of way? Yeah, Jen one-upped me. Whatever. Whatever you guys want to donate, if you want to give, $5, $20, it's all appreciated. And it helps me do more live streams and continue to do this. So the goal is to do this 5-6 days a week with a call in every day. I think that would be a pretty cool show. It takes a little bit of money. Not a lot. My boyfriend just got the second dose and he's bed feeling like crap. Okay. I might also do a live stream one day. Well, Rob, you'll be welcome anytime you want. And you don't have to talk about your ex that ended up with an ex-convict. I do remember. Rob's been a regular for a long time. He's not dealing with a breakup. But I believe, if I'm correct, Rob's ex ended up with an ex-convict. Samantha B throws in $4.99. Thanks. That'll buy me lunch. Yes, Sam is fine. Love the live chats. Do you miss the U.S.? I miss my parents sometimes. At 40 years old, you miss your parents? Well, yeah. I have a very good relationship with my mom and my dad at this point in my life, and to not hang out with them. I have a niece and nephew that live in California that I'm very close to, and so that's tough. Where I live is beautiful, but that would be the part that I miss specifically. I live in I wish everyone could move over here. I wish everyone could move over here. I mean, I live in paradise, so I live in a really nice place. I'm very privileged in that way, and that was not by accident. That was a choice I made a long time ago. But, you know, the U.S. is so big, right? So it depends on where you're visiting. And where my parents currently live is a small college town, which I found really cool, which the last year would be hard to navigate because everything was closed. But they have some really cool coffee shops. I like the vibe of a college town. It's really cool. You know, there's a lot of young people. There's some cool restaurants. So that helps, because before, when I used to go visit in the Bay Area has gotten really expensive. People go, oh, yeah, I heard it's pretty expensive. It's outrageous. To get a hotel room at a cheap place just to visit some friends in town, it was really expensive. So, you know, sleeping on my friend's couch, you get to a certain age, you just don't do that anymore. Let's see here. I got the Moderna, no issues. Moderna, is that the Chinese one? Yeah, I got CoronaVac when I was in Chile, but the American don't recognize it, so I had to get another vaccine. But since I have the antibodies, my body is overreacting. I'm fine with it. I'm fine. It just feels like a really bad hangover. Huh. Hacksaw Ridge. I think that's what it is. Chuckster. Chuckster, he's a medic, right? And he's a little guy. And he saves all these people. I got to look it up. Sorry. Let's see here. I think you're right, though. Yeah, it's got to be this. It got an 8.1 out of 10 on IMDb. I mean, it's a good movie. It's a good movie, and I like World War II stuff. I like true stories, but there's a few parts where I'm like, no way, dude. No way that this, like, some of the things he's doing, I'm like, I'm sure that there was a hero like that and he saved a lot of people, but, you know, like that, whoa. That got me. I'm like, I don't know about that one. Good knowledge, Chuckster. Thanks for sharing that. Like I said, good movie, but there was parts where I'm like, this part wasn't true. Laugh out loud. Yes, Rob's like, you remember that shit? Bryson LaFleur says, I want to send it, but I can't. Why can't you? Hacksaw Ridge apparently pretty accurate, but he saved a lot of people and was a pacifist. Yeah, I'm not saying he didn't save a lot of people and was a pacifist. I do remember that part, G-Money. It was just some of the scenes I'm like, I don't know if it went down like that. When it is over and the writing is on the wall for the breakup for you, Coach Mac, when the partner is indifferent. When is it over and the writing is on the wall for a breakup for you, Coach Mac? Well, I've had 4 different breakups in my life, and they've been different. So I wouldn't say the writing on the wall is always the same. For me, some people have similar relationships over and over again. That hasn't been the case for me. Yeah, they've ended differently. I would say that for me, connection's a big thing because I talk a lot. And when you start to just feel like you don't have a lot to talk about and you're just going in different directions as far as your interests, that might sound shallow to some people, but I'm just thinking about it myself on a couple of my relationships, where you just feel like you guys aren't having as much fun together and they're talking about things you don't really have an interest in. I think this gets underrated. Because I've seen this happen in a couple long-term relationships where your interests change. Like I've changed the last 2 or 3 years in the sense that I have this deep interest in coaching. I have this deep interest in psychology. I have this deep interest in energetics. I don't know if people are familiar with hypnotherapy. That's something that I read about and watch a lot of stuff on. And so if you're with someone that, has no interest in that at all, but also has interest in things that you find no interest in at all. And I think a lot of long-term relationships end up this way, but they end up in getting fights about other things. But it's pretty hard when you guys don't. I think you can have different things you're interested in, but when you just get to a point where there's just nothing to talk about and you just go out to eat together, how many people are like this? Because you go out to eat together and you see the couples that are just on their phone. They might say 2 words to each other. When you get to that point, is the writing on the wall? And when you get to the point where I'd add Samantha B, this is actually a good question. I'd add where you almost you want to fight or argue, but you don't want to because it's not gonna get anywhere. Where when you used to argue, someone wins, or you agree to disagree, or you make up and have great, passionate intimacy. You know that the relationship has changed to a point now where if you got in a fight or an argument, you both are just at a point where you don't even want to argue. You just want to stop arguing. And so one person will just give in or just not want to talk about it. Those are 2 places where the writing's on the wall. But when the partner is indifferent, yeah, that's a sign. That hasn't always been in my case. See, Rob has something to share. That would be an interesting story, though, Rob, if you could divulge some details about the ex with the convict. And I think she came back around for a second tour, and Rob said, no bueno. For the record, I'm nothing like that at all, or even remotely close. It's pretty safe in Thailand. Yes, it is, as far as I can tell. When in Thailand opening, I have a couple of honeys waiting in Bangkok. I miss Bangkok and Pattaya. You know what? I would just check your local embassy because that changes all the time. So I would go to one of the Thai embassy things. I wouldn't want to say something and it's not accurate because it changes daily. They're saying July 1st, if you have a vaccine, that it will be open. I don't know to what areas. So certain cities or towns might not be open, but whatever I would just go to an embassy, Thai embassy website and check that. I will email you about scheduling a day for a call in the live stream. Jen, I welcome it. That's awesome, Rob. We've all dated a few crazies. No judgment. No sleeping on couches when you're in Vacaville. I have an extra room you're welcome to. I might take you up on that, Jen. But when I stay in Vacaville, I usually stay at my niece's. But she's moving. She might be moving over here, actually. No needles for me. Well, that's a good policy, G-Money. That could be a tattoo. That would be some irony, huh? Doe suffered a left arm fracture from a sniper's bullet while being carried back to Allied lines, and at one point had 17 pieces of shrapnel embedded in his body after a failed attempt at kicking a grenade away from him and his men. Desmond Doss, real man. Amazing story. I'm not saying it's not all true, but some of the scenes I was like, really? But are you the same, G-Money, being a history major, that you like a good true story? Like a really good true story? And I like voiceover in a movie. Like Goodfellas, I like a voiceover telling the story. Goodfellas, it was a good movie that was deep. I think it's called Spotlight. What are the other ones? Anything that's a true story to me compared to these Marvel comic movies. I know everyone's like, oh, and all these stars put Marvel Comics characters in their backgrounds. It's just not for me. Dunkirk was good. I know that movie. Yeah, it wasn't easy to exist when I saw the judgment that was being demonstrated. Ignoring the right sides of a criminal drag addict. Okay, Rob, you got to come on and share this. Dunkirk, I really enjoy the different timelines. Yeah, Dunkirk was good. It was well made. That was the one with the different timelines. I agree. You know what's really cool? You know what's really amazing? You watch like a really good movie like Dunkirk or Saving Private Ryan, and then you watch a movie that's not, and it's so hard to watch the movies that I can't stand something that I can predict everything within 10 minutes. I process really quick. I like to know things. I like to be ahead. And so if a movie's highly predictable, I'll ruin it for myself. Yes. Let's see here. We got. Yeah, she came back knocking, thinking I was going to re-enter the picture and pay for things likely. That was never going to happen. Rob's got a backbone. Rosa Films International. I'm guessing that you make films. Hey, Mac McCarthy, I've been dating a famous singer for 2 months. Well, congratulations on dating someone famous. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? That sounds like I've had clients that have, quote unquote, dated famous people, and it usually doesn't work out. She's got a lot of trust issues and just got out of a 1.5 relationship a month ago. Well, that doesn't sound like a good way to start things. Generally, people that have trust issues from the get-go either had someone cheat on them when they were younger, or their parents or whoever their guardians were had a relationship where someone couldn't be trusted, or they don't trust themselves. They're a cheater or they do bad things. Doesn't always have to be cheating. And so they don't trust that that you won't be like them. So that's a double whammy. That's not a positive. So you don't want to, you're basically starting a relationship at an uphill battle. And if I had to guess, and this is how good I am, it's a hypothesis. It's not even a guess. It's an educated guess, my friend. I would say that you're okay with the trust issues because you're highly attracted to this individual and you have good intimacy. So you go, yeah, they have trust issues, but I'm trying to work through it. Chriselle Lee. What an interesting name. Is that your real name? Chriselle Lee? We've been having a great time, laughing, having a beautiful time in NYC, New York. Recently, at dinner last Saturday, I told her how I felt and wanted to be a long-term relationship. She froze and said she didn't know what she wanted. She's a rock star. She's a famous singer. You put your heart out on a clothesline. It didn't work out. Usually it's ideal if the woman brings it up. If you were having fun, hooking up, as Corey Wayne says, I would just stick with that. And the fact that this person's, famous, out of a relationship, has trust issues, you still need a little bit of time before you jump in. So I watched all your videos and did the no contact rule for 1 week. Then yesterday she texted me and wants to meet up in 2 days for a museum date. Well, that's cool. I like a museum date. I feel unsafe that I'll get hurt again. Should I swallow my pride and emotions and just go with the flow, or cancel the date? Thanks for your help, Mac. Well, here you go. This is my 2 cents. This is my short advice, not knowing the story. Go on the date. Before you go on the date, take a cold shower, go for a run, exhaust yourself a little bit. Don't do the something about Mary trick. But if you're anxious or you got some butterflies, go on a run or a jog, some kind of exercise, cold shower. Go on the date as a discovery mission. Don't go back with the goal of making this woman your girlfriend. She doesn't want that. Go on the date to be present, have a good time, and reconnect. If it goes well and you hook up or you don't hook up, make another date. Just start fresh. Your expectations of what you want, she's not there yet. If she's a rock star or singer or whatever, she needs to be challenged. So you already provided that. You've already stated what you want. Don't ask again. Does that make sense? You got to go back into this. Yeah, I'm up for a date. Yeah, I'm up for a casual relationship. You said what you wanted. Don't bring up that moment where you said you wanted to make things serious. Don't bring it up again. Just go have a good time. Just go have a good time. And then make another date. And then make another date until she brings up if she wants to get serious again. I would highly recommend that you monitor these trust issues and how much she's still attached to her past ex. If you're able, by the way, if you're able to attract someone that's a famous singer, then you seem like you might be somewhat of a catch yourself. Leave the dating door open for yourself right now because this person's not ready. And give yourself a little self-respect that you don't have to just bet on one. Does that make sense? If it gets any further, book a live coaching session. Give me all the ins and outs, the story. And if you don't find it useful or helpful, I'll give you a refund. If a movie is predictable, I ruin it for myself, sounding like a fearful avoidant there, Mac. I don't know if I use the word I ruin it for myself. I think I say it's... No, I don't think I said that. If you want to label me fearful avoidant, go ahead. It doesn't have any weight on me. Like I said, when I've read those attachment issues, and I haven't gone as deep as you have, Clutch, I just found myself going, oh, I'm like that sometimes. Oh, I'm like that sometimes. I don't identify with one of them, but I certainly have had moments where I've identified with some of them. Hi, Coach. Yes, real name. Chriselle Lee. Is that female or male? Did you know that Michelle in French is Michael? So it's actually a male's name. What do I do if my husband refuses to take me out for a date night? Divorce him immediately, never talk to him again, get all the assets, clear the bank accounts. I'm joking. He goes out every Wednesday and Saturday, but rarely wants to take me out for date night. Have you asked me this before under a different name? I feel like I've gotten this before. Sounds like you need a marriage counselor. We were just talking about this. Maybe, Chriselle, I need to know more of the story of what's going on in your marriage. So book a live coaching session. We can fully unpack that before you do something crazy. Tell me more about your situation. I can give you more of a tailored answer. I would be giving you a very broad answer about this. The fact that I always tell people when you make a request in a relationship and someone doesn't want to even meet you halfway on the bridge, they don't always have to give in. But if it's a reasonable request, which date night I think is at a marriage level, and they don't even want to entertain it, that's not good. And you have to ask yourself at what level are you willing to accept that? I like when someone goes, you know what, I'll meet you halfway. I'll do date night, but I want to choose the place. Or I'll do date night, but I can't do Saturday, but I'd rather do Tuesday. I don't know. I recently had a client where her boyfriend lives with his mom and she really hates it and she wants to get their own place, but they don't have enough money. And the guy goes, look, I'll clear out our basement so we have more privacy. That's meeting you halfway at the bridge. That's trying to find a common ground. That's good relationship communication. Yes, that makes sense. Don't bring up last Saturday. Copy that, buddy. He has been unfaithful before, and I feel like the signs are there again. I don't want to nag my husband and fight about the same topic. He said he will change, but his actions say different. Well, you know him better than I do. Where there's smoke, there's fire. You got to ask yourself what you're willing to accept and what you're not willing to accept, and what are you getting out of staying in the marriage or by putting up with what you're putting up with? What are you getting? Why are you putting up with this? On a scale of 1 to 10, how famous is the singer? Good question, Rob. Sounds like he is a rebound. It's not Lady Gaga, is it? Get a new husband. No, my first name on this channel. Okay. We'll do, what is your email? Yes, he doesn't meet me halfway. I feel like he's either cheating or embarrassed to have been in public, to be seen out in public with me, but I'm fit and cute, so I don't get it. Thank you, Sabina. Like I said, let's book a live coaching session. I want a coaching session, just for the record, Chriselle, is not free. So if you emailed me, I could give you a link to make an appointment, but currently it's $125 an hour to talk to me. But we do have a special going right now for the month of May. 4 hours for $300, which is $75 per session with 2 hypnotherapy sessions. Now someone's going, what? What is this, Mac? I've only been sending that out to past clients. But if you want to do it, Chriselle, and change your life immediately with a money-back guarantee and get hypnotized in the process, let's do it. I just hypnotized 2 people yesterday. They said, what did you do to me? I said, how do you feel? She said, great. I cried, but I'm happy. That's an experience. I got my website going right now. As far as it's under construction, there'll be a whole page about hypnotherapy and what I'm doing with that. Something called EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. So got a lot of things that go in there. So Chriselle, let's do this. Let's do this. I'll give you my email. And I'll give you the details about the hypnotherapy thing. Because honestly, I would book that if you can afford it. You get 4 hours at $75 an hour, but you also get 2 hypnotherapy sessions. And if you have a lot of issues, because I've just found over the years of doing this, 1 hour is not enough. I usually talk to people in the first sessions for at least 90 minutes, and then they usually come back to me. But the hypnotherapy is really having a different effect for people. So, and like I said, if it's not helpful or useful, you can say, Mac, I want my money back. Done. You know what's odd? Every woman I see, every woman I see hung up on a guy treats her poorly and doesn't value her. No, what's odd? Every woman I see hung up on a guy that treats her poorly and doesn't value her. Every heartbroken man I see treated his ex too good and she's left and he's broken. Okay, LenderTube, you're just projecting your own situation. You do know that, right? This isn't true for everybody. You see this because you see this in your own reality. You're filtering for it. Every heartbroken man I see treated his ex too good and she left and he's broken. That's not always the case. It is the case sometimes. There's 7 billion humans. That's not the rule of thumb. There's plenty of heartbroken men that had good relationships. I'll give you some examples that had good relationships and didn't treat their ex too good, or were overly nice guys, or were beta males, and the woman met someone else or just fell out of love. It's not that simple. That's why the story really carries weight. Every woman I see hung up on a guy treats her poorly and doesn't value her. Also, again, there's women out there that have there's women out there that like nice guys and end up staying with them for long periods of time. So that's not always true. The propensity of a woman to stay with a guy that treats her poorly and doesn't value her Usually, Chriselle Lee, and we'll get into this when we do a coaching session if you choose to do that, this is when you do a coaching session, when we talk on live streams, it's surface based, right? There's a lot of things. Oh, everyone generalizes. When you talk for an hour and a half, now you get below the surface and get to the roots of the problem. Why is someone allowing someone to treat them poorly and not value them? It's usually because they have a bad self-image of themselves. They were manipulated, or they believe this is how relationships are, that this is how relationships go because they lack experience, or their past relationships have told them this is how relationships are. Does that make sense? So it's not that simple that every woman I see hung up on a guy treats her poorly or doesn't value her. There's something deeper to it. And there's nuance to every situation, LenderTube. So the nuance involves where the idea came from. Because there's some individuals, right? There's some women out there, the minute you mistreat them or treat them poorly, if they're high value, they won't stick around. There's plenty out there. There's plenty of men out there that are strong, masculine individuals. Let's look at it this way. The prototype these days is every Navy SEAL's writing a book now. Oh, this book was written by an ex-Navy SEAL. That's got clout. I mean, if you're a Navy SEAL, that's official. When you consider someone that's a Navy SEAL to be an alpha male, at least in one walk of life, right? Wouldn't you think that someone that's a professional boxer would be an alpha male, right? They definitely wouldn't be too nice or too good to a woman in some cases. Do those guys still get left with their heart broken? Yes. Yes. It's just not that simple. I mean, in your LenderTube and your broad experience and life experience, are you talking about yourself in one of these situations? If I may ask, to be frank. LenderTube, maybe you want to come on to a live stream. I hope you don't think I'm attacking your statement. I'm dissecting it a bit. Rob IS says, well, and I'll say, well, do you know what I mean by that though, Rob? How that someone can assume, oh, this guy's automatically, this, that, or the other. Navy SEALs have their heart broken too. But from the I remember I met a guy, I don't know if he was a Navy SEAL or not. He was some kind of special ops or something like that. Guy was just yoked, was in great shape, right? And he was seeing a woman long distance that was a friend of my girlfriend. So we all went out and hung out a few times. And this guy, nice guy, overly nice, got absolutely walked on by the girl he was seeing. It was secondhand embarrassment listening to how she talked to him. And this guy's, like I said, like special ops, career military, right? Probably could get, as far as looks go, probably could pull, 7 to 8 out of 10 women any day of the week. But if you heard him, the way he let the girl talk to him, whoa. I know from firsthand, day 2, Rob, Navy SEALs. Pro boxer do not always classify as alphas. Plenty only have some alpha characteristics. That's my point. That's my point, Rob. Ding, 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 ding. The idea of alpha and beta males, my perspective is this. Is there 100%er out there? Or are all people acting in moments at different frequencies? And likely in many cases they are, but in order to exemplify the spectrum of what an alpha is, they have to know the many different methods which also involve social merit. Yes, Rob, we got to unpack this in a live stream because you're one of those people, you're really deep into the alpha thing. I'd love to get your perspective, because I just like to ask good questions about people that study certain aspects more than I do. And the good thing is, you respect a good question, I think. You know what's really interesting is when people get really pissed off, you ask a good question. Oh, I bet you'd ask something, and you're like, it's a good question. It's a good question. Good questions mean like, I want to learn more. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm partially saying I'm not sure I agree yet, but go on. Interesting, Rob. No one is a 100%er. Interesting. Sell it all, van life, single, no kids, cat mother, no debt. Nobody off topic. What would I say back to you? You had me at cat mother. Did you mean for the dings about the boxer to sound like the end of Round Bells? No. No, I didn't actually. It's funny because a friend of mine that heard my live stream, he's like, I just cringe when you make those song voices. To have a fuller spectrum of alpha traits, one needs to study it, be open to it, and add it within the dynamic of how they operate. Rob, I know you're a big Corey Wayne fan. I think I sent you over that. Video, or I'm sorry, that interview with Corey Wayne, where he was interviewed. And one of the things that I thought was cool about Corey Wayne, is he kept that interview in his frame, and the guy that was interviewing him was like 31, and Corey Wayne's 50 now. And Corey Wayne was cool, man. Like he didn't lose. You know, the guy kept going, "You're 50 now." Well, you're 50 now, and I'm 31, and you're 50 now. And someone could get irritated with that. And Corey Wayne was like, "I think I'll live to 150," like dead serious. And Corey Wayne, every time he mentioned it, would find a positive in being 50 in his outlook. And then the guy would go on some tangent, and Corey Wayne would just go, yeah, Corey Wayne, like, if he didn't want to add to it, he would just stop. But one of the things that stood out, this might bother some people. I don't follow Corey Wayne religiously in any way, or even look at all his content every day. I respect the hell out of him. But he got a lot of flack for supporting Trump openly. And so the guy was like, oh, like they got into the politics thing, got into all this. And Corey Wayne the guy goes, man, you must have lost a lot of business. He goes, I lost a lot of business. I lost a lot. He goes, I lost a lot of people. He goes, but that's masculine energy, or I don't know if he used the word energy. He goes, I believe in it. It's part of what I believe in. Like, in other words, let the chips fall where they want. If you don't agree with me, I have a platform, and I'm going to tell people what I think. And I thought, that is alpha. It was a good interview, though, because you saw a side of Corey Wayne that he wasn't in his show, but he was who he was. He was who he was. I respect the hell out of him. Linder to Chuckster. Well, I'm glad it helped you, bro. We're going to have to get a coaching session at some point, right? I hope you're feeling better, doing better. And I do think if you want to do a hypnotherapy with me at some point, being that you got a slight illness going right now, it might help you. Be skeptical, but also be open at the same time. Have a good night's sleep, my friend. Appreciate the dissection, but yeah, cut into me. Ouch. My guts are out. I kid. I know you're sarcastic. Yeah, a bit of projection. When I fall hard, it's paired with depression because I know that's the beginning of the end. Wow, that's dramatic. Well, LinderTube, I didn't mean it to hurt you, but a lot of people do that. I've done it in the past, right? We all assume that everyone else has our experiences. The question is that outlook going to serve you? in the future? Or is it going to find you another woman that fits the negative outlook you have, which wouldn't serve you, right? I'm coming up on 3 hours. I got 12 on deck. I got 10 likes. I got $34.97 in the chat revenue. I do appreciate that. I've been on a tear today. I don't have a co-host right now, so it's all me. The voice box is going to be a little sore tomorrow. Speaking of masculine energy, Kyle seems to be conservative too because he supports Corey and Elliot Hulse, who is way off the deep end now. I don't know who Elliot Hulse is. I do like Kyle for masculine energy. We've talked a few times. He's actually been on the live stream on the chat, and I've actually had a long conversation with him. I don't listen to all his content currently, but I like him. You know why I like Kyle? Because Kyle is authentic. He's being who he is. He's not acting. And so if he likes Elliot Hulse, and that's controversial, and he's willing to stamp that, that's him putting it out there. Mac, you're number one. Well, I'll take that as a huge compliment from you, Linda, too, being that, like I said, you have a little bit of sarcasm to you, which I like and I appreciate. In a past life, I was highly sarcastic myself and still have a little bit of it in me. Kyle's a good dude, yeah. Like I said, we've actually talked before that that's one of the few people I would collaborate with. And he actually told me that I was one of the first people that came up if he was going to recommend another coach, which I found to be a really good compliment. And he's also told me before that his coaching clients, if they've gone to me before, have said good things. So, yeah. Like I said, I just like people that you feel like they're not plastic. They're not used car salesmen. You know who I'm talking about out there. So Kyle's a real dude. I liked him since he started, and he actually he started after me, and he's better at marketing than I am. Me and him have talked about that before. He's put his heart and his soul into it. He's put a lot of time into it, and he's got the views, and he's been busy. So I'm told him, I said, man, I'm fucking happy for you. You deserve it. Any closing questions? I don't know if I'm gonna make 3 hours. I got to get some food before I go to the gym. 15 and 11 on deck. Chat revenue is $34. We can go for $100 right now. No. Sabina, how have you been? And I don't want to leave you out. If you would like to join a live stream one day, I think it would be nice to have you on. You rarely talk about your relationships, but you always have an opinion that's valued. Agreed. Don't get me wrong. Kyle is good. Oh, yeah, he's a killer at marketing, but you deserve it too. What sets you apart, Mac, is that you're not one of the red pill guys. Okay. I don't like... putting myself in a box. I think that's why I don't care for... I don't care for the attachment theory. I don't want to, I like the Warriors. I like the Giants for baseball, and I like the Niners. Those are my teams. I grew up with them. I don't want to be a part of a philosophy that I got to follow some boundaries to fall under that label. That's just me. Anyone else that wants to do that, that's great. But I will do this. I will take bits and pieces that I like and remix it into my own philosophy, right? Does that make sense? Windy Dawn, you're awesome also. I really appreciate you, hun. Thanks for making it 54. You still have a live coaching whenever you want it, Windy Dawn. I do not forget, and I do forgive. Have a great day, hun. Red pill is just accepting the truth of the dynamic for what it really is. What's the dynamic? Some people exploit the red pill, but to be definition for their rage. That's not what it's supposed to be. That's another. We got a few topics to unpack, Rob. Thanks, Coach, for agree to disagree with you. That's a great Ozzy. That's a great way to communicate, right? I have no problem. I think people that have it's highly mature communication to agree to disagree, to not just blast someone, to just go, you know what, I actually disagree, and then give a reasonable reason why, and then someone goes, you know what, I disagree, and you go, okay, fine. You know what I mean? It's one thing when someone just is dug in without listening to reason and logic from another end, and then going, even though you made some good points there, I still don't agree. Cool, no problem. By the way, what we were talking about earlier, Ozzy, you've got different experience than I do. I respect that. Oh, relationship dynamics. Okay. See how I had to ask that? If I could create a short course for people, I don't know how I would craft it, but I would say active listening and looking at certain words and being able to ask questions, because people will just comb over things and be like, oh, red pill, like dynamic. What do you even mean by that? Right? Why things are the way they are, they ended up going in certain directions based on circumstances. Why things are the way they are. That sounds like stoicism, if I'm correct. Like I said, when you get into the red pill thing, I don't feel like I've done enough research on it or followed it. I would be ignorant to the guidelines of saying you're red pill or not red pill. You know, I'd rather agree piece by piece with different things or different individuals. We got 11 on deck, 11 likes. I think that's good luck if Mary was on deck. All right, folks, I'm going to call it lunch right now, and I'm going to say thank you very kindly for riding all the way through, especially Rob IS, the infamous Sabina, Ozzy411. I think you've been on deck for a minute, and you've stated your opinion with style and grace. Clutch, if you're still on, I hope you feel better, bud. Lindertube, always a pleasure, man. I welcome the sarcasm and sense of humor. Nobody off topic. Take care of the cats. Give them a little bit of tuna and some anchovies tonight. Chriselle Lee, I look forward to seeing your email and connecting with you possibly. I think I can help you. Chuckster, sleep well, as I said before. Rozo Films International, I hope the advice helped you a bit. If not, email me or go to rightmac.com and book a live coaching session. Samantha B, always a pleasure. Thanks for the donation. G Money, always on deck. Jen, thank you. Bryston, send your story in at some point, dude. Don't talk about it, be about it. Roller Girl was rolling. Windy Dawn, Michael Andrew, thank you. Yeah, this was a really good one today. We had a, spice of variety here. All right, folks. Rosa Films International, I wish you all the best with that date. Go on the date. Like I said, get rid of that anxiety with a run, jog, or a cold shower. It's a discovery mission. And, it's not the end of the world if it doesn't work out. Recalibrate the ships. And if you were able to pull this one that's a famous singer, there's some other ones interested, right? Don't sell yourself short. If you get more issues with it, book a live coaching session. It's not a breakup, but I believe I can help you. And if I can, I'll give you your money back, dude. Enjoy yourself out there in New York City. City of Dreams, as the great Snoop Dogg said. New York, New York. That song came out when I was in high school. All right, folks. curtains.